2.
Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Inside the Birds live pregame show here at River Sportsbook on Delaware Ave in Philadelphia, where everybody loves a winner. I'm Jeff Mosher from Inside the Birds, alongside my Inside the Birds co-host Adam Kaplan. Check out the Halloween costume. One of the best ones you've seen.
Hey, that's him.
Usual suspects with us as always. We got our tape breakdown guru, Greg Cosell. What's going on, Greg?
Jeff.
And my man, Jason Avant, former Eagles wide receiver, and of course, co-host of Q&A on Inside the Birds. You're going to have to forgive me and Jason today. We're a little down from our college football teams yesterday, but it's NFL Sunday. We're going to rally. We're going to come on back. We are here at Jack's Bar and Grill, and you may hear the pleasant music in the background. We're working on that. Look, the Eagles are headed to the Motor City. They are there. They're there to take on the 0-7 Detroit Lions. The Eagles, of course, not much better at 2-5.
I don't believe it's the national game of the week, is it?
It is not the no. I don't think you're getting
It's not America's game of the week.
Right. I don't think you're getting Aikman and Buck for this one.
I think it's going to be competitive. We'll get into that. But sometimes you get two struggling teams. They come together and play competitive games. Who knows?
Competitive is not always good, though, and we'll see what kind of game unfolds. Obviously,
I think it will be.
The Eagles are coming off a very nightmarish 33-22 loss to the Raiders. The Lions are winless, but they are competitive. 3 of their losses so far this year have been by 1 possession, and they were actually leading the Rams in the 4th quarter last week before, the Rams went back to being the Rams and the Lions went back to being the Lions. The Birds are favorites for the first time this year.
Really?
So if you're feeling lucky,
Wow.
come on down here to Rivers Casino and Sportsbook.
Well, that's what Clint Eastwood once said in a movie, and it didn't work out for the guy he said it to.
Feeling lucky, punk?
You feel unlucky?
Do you feel lucky
today?
There you go. Well, if you are feeling lucky, you can come down here to Rivers, place a wager, enjoy the food, enjoy the drink, enjoy the beautiful music that you can still hear in the background, and just catch the game. It's really football watching heaven here. There's beautiful big screen TVs, recliners, food, drink specials, so you got to come watch on Sundays. It's a great place to be here at Rivers Casino. For those of you watching at home, please take a minute to like this or share it on whatever platform you're watching it on. And also, if you have a question for anybody here, especially if you want to ask Jason about Michigan State, and, you can do that.
Or how about Penn State?
No, we're not going to talk about Penn State. You can leave it in your YouTube on the chat on the side. Leave the question. We will try to get to it. Also a comment. We'll try to get that out too. So we've got some breaking news to start with today, and it pertains to Eagles linebackers. Adam, we saw a little bit of a shakeup last week. Are we going to see another one this week?
Yeah, I mean, it's not earth-shattering news, but from what we're hearing, we're going to see similar alignment as they had last week. So Davion Taylor and T.J. Edwards surprisingly started last week, right? We had said prior to last week's game that we're going to see something change, and that was the change. But what we understand, they're going to continue to go with this. I think the way that we understand it is they want to continue to evaluate Davion Taylor, who was a 3rd-round pick last year. Not just make him subject to nickel situations, which he was drafted for, Jeff. They want to play him on early downs with T.J. Edwards, who's a run stopper. Expect those guys to play the majority of the snaps. You saw Singleton last week had a snaps cut. He only had 1 more snap than the next guy. So what you're seeing now, Jeff, is you're going to see Taylor and Edwards take majority of the snaps here. Eric Wilson, by the way, you saw his playing time get cut severely. I expect that to happen today. In fact, it wouldn't shock me if he's inactive today. And if he plays, he probably won't play very much.
Well, what you say is very interesting because Taylor and Edwards have been playing the last 2 weeks in the base defense, which is essentially a 5-2.
Yeah.
But the Lions play out of 11 personnel on over 65% of their offensive snaps up to this point through 7 games.
Yeah.
Right.
So we will find out indeed if that's going to happen or if they're going to play what they view as their nickel linebackers, which I believe Taylor will play in that package.
Yep. Yeah,
Edwards normally does not.
So if that's the case, if the Lions play a lot of 11 personnel, what you're really going to see is the Eagles back in their kind of 4-2 look, you would think, where the 2 linebackers are going to be T.J. Edwards and Davion Taylor, if we're right about
well, no,
that.
not
or
not
maybe
in
Singleton on
not
certain
in nickel.
3rd downs.
Then you might see Singleton.
Right.
Okay.
Or they've also played in nickel a 5-1 look where Avery is essentially an on-the-ball edge player,
Right.
and the only linebacker up to this point has been Singleton, but it could well be Taylor in that role.
Yeah, Taylor has to do a little bit better job in route field.
Yeah.
They went after him this past week, so hopefully the playing time is something that he earns, and it's just not an experiment. As of right now, I don't see that there's a big difference, like it's an improvement at all, him being there. Actually, he doesn't have route field at all. There's times, literally,
He's a runner.
where guys are, behind him, and he's going in the opposite direction of what they're running in. Like Foster Moreau last week, he had an over route, and Derek Carr is moving him left with his eyes, but the guy's right behind him going right, and you got to feel that.
Two things off of that, and that was one thing we heard about Davion Taylor last year, his eye discipline. That was an issue. Well, Eagles now, and you add in last week's production, the Eagles are the worst cover in the National Football League at tight ends right now. They're also giving up 8.4 targets per game, most of the NFL. Who are they going against? T.J. Hawkinson, a first-round pick last year. Greg, Hawkinson was a guy that a lot of people talked about coming into the draft.
I love Hawkinson. I didn't think he had a weakness.
Right, that was it. He was an all-around tight end. How does he look so far to you?
Well, I think he looks good. I think he's stuck in and by the way, this was the case. He got hurt a lot last year, but this year, obviously, their offense has been a little up and down in the pass game.
Yeah.
But he's a good player. But just to comment on what you're saying about the tight ends, and that plays off exactly what Jason said, because since the Eagles don't really play much man, that speaks to understanding how to play zone coverage.
You have to.
Right, and that starts, there's a lot of factors that go in, which you well know,
Yeah.
and it starts with understanding how receivers are lined up, what kind of routes could come off, what kind of combination routes.
Yeah.
Play action is a big deal, particularly play action boot. So there's a lot of factors that go into linebackers playing underneath zone coverage, being aware in that kind of in coverage.
Yeah, in that situation with Davion, a few times I'm talking he's 7-8 yards out of position.
Yeah.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah.
When a guy can move you to a different linebacker spot, it's pretty bad.
I have a hard time blaming Davion Taylor. He was drafted in the 3rd round, which was a little bit of an overdraft based on what we were told
2 or
about
3 rounds.
Yeah.
both his by several rounds based on his experience in the game, which was very little. And if you factor in that he didn't play on defense much last year outside of a few snaps and missed almost all of training camp this year with an injury, and then had another injury at the start of this year with the calf, I mean, I don't know what you could realistically expect for a kid who just does not have. This is evaluation mode, in my opinion.
And that's a great point. I mean,
can take your
you're
lumps.
playing him because he's far and away the most athletic linebacker on your roster. So you're trying to get him to be able to play to that level of athleticism, but it takes time.
Yeah.
Would
And
he-
we're going to have
live
to
with
deal
it.
with it.
We're going to live with
Would
it.
he be better suited to play just more man, where he can use that? He can just run with
Yeah,
somebody.
but you can't build your defense around
I
one
know.
guy.
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah.
especially a linebacker. Right?
Yeah,
In this
yeah,
game.
yeah.
All right. Well, let's go to the injury report for both teams, as there will be several players not playing of prominence. For the Eagles, it starts with the running game and running back Miles Sanders, who yesterday, as expected, went on injured reserve, so he's going to be out at least 3 games. The Eagles will obviously rely more, at least we think they will, on Jordan Howard being elevated from the practice squad. We'll get into that. On defense, they'll be without cornerback Zach McPherson, who really wasn't playing much, if at all, on defense.
2
he
snaps
was more of a
the whole season.
2 snaps.
Yeah.
Special teams, though, and on Anthony Harris is doubtful. And when you're doubtful these days, it seems
Means you're
very,
not
very
playing.
unlikely you're
And
going to
by the way, the Eagles they're one of the teams that rarely uses the doubtful designation, so you could consider him not playing. Now, the funny thing was they changed the injury description from hands to thumbs.
Right.
I don't want to make any statements here. I don't know what that's about.
Next week is fingernails.
Right. And then the groin, of course, but he's not expected to play.
All right. Guys like Landon Dickerson, Jason Kelce, Devontae Smith, Hargrave missed a little practice time. They're all good. No injury decks, or they're expected to be in the lineup today. No issues. Looking forward to the Lions here. Sort of concerned because, you want to hit the Eagles where it hurts, and that's with your running game. But both of their running backs, DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams, are considered questionable. In today's NFL, that means they're going to play, but you've got Swift nursing a groin injury and Jamal Williams with a thigh.
The interesting thing with Swift is he's been on the injury report now 24 times, dating back from week 1, and he plays every time. And he does get
you're going back to last year.
No, going back actually 3 days each week.
Right.
21,
okay,
right.
got
21
it.
plus 3 is 24.
Got it.
He plays every week, and he plays a lot of snaps, and now he's leading the NFL in receptions for running backs. Greg, when you go back to his pre-draft tape, what back did you kind of think he was coming out of college? What kind of type of back did you think he was going to be at this level? versatile and all that?
Oh, yes, yes. I thought what he could ultimately be, and not quite at this level, but the style, I want to make that clear, I'm talking style of player.
Sure.
I thought he could be Alvin Kamara-ish. You know, a guy who's not going to carry 20 times a game, which Kamara's been
12 or
doing, but
13
they don't
times
want
a
him to
game.
do that anymore, which is why they just traded for Mark Ingram in New Orleans. But I think a guy who could carry, 11, 12 times a game and be a big factor in your pass game. That's the way I saw Swift coming out of Georgia.
Yeah, we will get into him because he's certainly catching the ball at a very high rate for running backs this year. On defense, man, the Lions, who have been banged up all year, stay banged up. Trey Flowers, questionable. He's one of their better pass rushers. Outside linebacker A.J. Parker and Jerry Jacobs. Those are two cornerbacks for them who are questionable. Jacobs with an illness, Parker with a neck.
They will play. Yeah,
and it sounds like they'll play.
Parker is going to play?
I was told they expect him to go. In fact, they didn't add a cornerback off the practice squad. So.
Interesting, because I know midweek Campbell said it was not looking good at all, but I guess
he got working Friday. They expect him to go, and they are really hurting at corner. In fact, you mentioned
they're really hurting at corner.
Yeah. Parker and Jacobs are undrafted free agents. Your guy Warrior from Penn State, who took his lumps last season, he's still starting. They have no depth at corner. They've, as you see their injury list there.
When Parker got hurt last week, they were playing Darryl Worley in the slot.
Right, Worley now.
Former Eagle, DJ Worley.
Yes, Tyrell Worley's on their practice squad from Philadelphia. Former Eagle for about 2 weeks, a week.
Yeah.
So look, they've got a lot of injury issues, and the matchups do favor the Eagles, but will they take advantage of it?
All right, well, listen, if you want to know everything you want to know about the Lions, and they are competitive, but why they haven't had a win, just look at their guys who will not be playing today. Wide receiver Tyrell Williams, wide receiver Quintus Cephas, left tackle Taylor Decker, center Frank Ragnow, outside linebacker Romeo Okwara, the cornerback Jeff Okuda, who they drafted really high a couple of years ago, and of course Ifeatu Melifonwu, who is, I believe, also a former Eagle, or is that his?
No. This is the kid from Syracuse who was drafted.
Right.
And he was, by the way, he was going to play a lot for them. He was going to be no worse than one of their three corners.
Yep.
He's
a good prospect.
I mean, you mentioned it, right? Tyrell Williams was brought here to start as their ex-receiver, right? He's got a very bad concussion. He's out. Cephas, who they like, I know you like Cephas, who's one of their smarter rookie receivers last year.
Wisconsin kid.
Broke his collarbone. Probably will not return. Decker, Dan Campbell said, might not return this year. No. Right. He was on IR week 1. He has not played. And we'll get into who's playing over there. Ragnow has a severe case of turf toe. Okwara, who's one of the better pass rushers, tore his Achilles. He's out for the season. Okuda tore his Achilles, out for the season. You can't survive all this.
No.
That's why they have no wins.
That sounds very Philadelphia Eagles 2020-ish with all the guys who are hurt and out for the year. As far as transactions, again, the big news is that elevated from the practice squad for the Eagles are running back Jordan Howard and tight end Richard Rodgers. Rodgers played last week. I imagine he will play again this week as well.
For sure.
And of course, we will see Jordan Howard. The big question is, what kind of role will Jordan Howard have? Nick Sirianni said this week that he has practiced with the ones, but I don't think that meant that he's the only running back that practiced with the ones. They, of course, have situational elements. I would not think, as we sit here right now, that Jordan Howard's going to be the lead or primary ball carrier.
I would agree. And off that, Jeff, understand that they, all season, up to last week, Boston Scott never had a touch from scrimmage.
Right.
They've been a two-back offense.
Yep.
So that would lead me to believe they still should be, but situationally with Jordan Howard, maybe short yardage, he's bigger physically, obviously. We know that he's a good pass protector. We don't talk about that a lot. I know he didn't catch the ball up, but he's a decent pass protector. So there are some situations you could play him, but the guy that's got to get the ball more is Kenny Gainwell, who we know the coaches love, but his usage has been sporadic, which I don't quite understand.
I believe we've said that about every Eagle playmaker on the team.
Which is another issue.
That is another issue. All right, one of these teams is due for a win today, as a streak will definitely be broken when the clock hits 0. The Lions have lost 11 straight games dating back to last year. The Eagles have dropped 2 straight and 5 out of 6 since the season opener. But I want everybody to listen to this, because I've heard this a lot in the city this week, guys. I've heard this. You know what? The Eagles should go to Detroit and beat the Lions because the Lions stink. They're 0-7. But let me just give this stat for everyone. The Eagles have only won 6 of their last 23 games going back to last year. That's just one more win than the Lions have going back to last year. Both teams changed coaches. Both teams have new quarterbacks. So when you're looking at the Eagles and Lions, and you're talking about, well, this team hasn't won, and at least the Eagles are 2-5. From the start of last year, it's basically the same team. Not only that, the Lions have beaten the Eagles the last 3 times they played them, including when they went 3-13 a couple of years ago. So I don't see any evidence that says the Eagles should be overwhelming favorites today to beat the Lions.
What is the spread, by the way?
I believe it was 3. We'll obviously get into the end of the show, but last I checked, it was 3. And I'm not quite sure. I think this is, I mean, when you look at the, I'll ask you this first. When you look at the 53-man of the Eagles, I do think it looks better. We just saw all those injuries that the Lions have. That's significantly worse. But they fight hard. You brought that up too. But when you watch these teams on tape, does one stick out as significantly or obviously better than the other?
Is that question for me?
Yes.
I said, Greg, I'll start with you.
Yes. From a personnel standpoint.
You know, I think I would answer that no, that neither team stands out as significantly better than the other team. I think both teams are getting very sporadic quarterback play right now, which is more surprising to me with Jared Goff, because Jared Goff has had success in this league, and I don't think he's played particularly well. And actually, Dan Campbell stated that publicly, which is very rare for a coach to say that publicly. Campbell's a different kind of cat, though, and he, I think the team probably understands where he's coming from.
Sure.
But Goff is a very interesting player, because Goff is the true definition of a system pocket player. Now, every quarterback's a system quarterback, because that's how the position is taught.
Right.
But he is a quarterback that really does not have any great movement ability at all. He has to feel very comfortable. He's a pretty thrower when the pocket is secure. Of course, you could probably say that about a lot of quarterbacks. But he's a very pretty thrower when it's secure. He is not very good at all when he feels or perceives pressure. That's where the breakdowns occur. He speeds himself up, and he tends to become not quite as accurate with his delivery. So the key with him is you must pressure him. Now, the thing that's been very surprising to me is and I think I made a note of this, they've not been very good on first down. And that's the issue, because on first down, ultimately, that's where you can dictate the kind of pass you want to throw.
Sure.
Because based on your personnel, your formation, you're going to get certain looks.
Right.
So you can dictate the kind of pass you're going to throw. And his yards per attempt on first down is terrible. So they have no explosive pass plays on first down, relatively speaking.
Wow.
That was surprising to me as I really studied their tape.
The more you talk about the Lions, the more I feel like I hear the Eagles' issues also coming into play, because they're like mirror images. Jay,
They are. Well, when it comes to golf, and I have to just back him with that, I've always viewed him as a panicker, and me watching his last 3 games, that's what you see on tape.
Sure.
Get around his legs, get around his body.
Absolutely.
He speeds up everything. The ball comes out much harder than it should.
Yeah.
Swift saved him last week on the touchdown when he got pressure. He basically rocketed, a
You're
pass
talking
to
about
him.
the 63-yard.
Yeah, it was
And
a
that was a
terrible.
busted cover.
It was a busted play.
yeah,
well with him, but he had pressure, and it was a screen, and he had to fired in there, and it's just indicative of the type of player that he is. And you're going to ask me another question?
Yeah, well, I want to ask you, as a former player, right? Whenever you were playing a team that was on a long losing streak, it always felt like the law of averages means it's bound to catch up. Like, you never want to be that team that breaks the other team's losing streak. You know what I'm saying? Like, was there ever in the back of your mind, like, that kind of thought process that this team's going to win at some point, some week? We have to actually be a little extra on our P's and Q's today because of that.
I wouldn't say that you think about that at all. You never go in a game thinking about, like, what if we lose, or we don't want to be the team that loses to this team. I think you kind of compartmentalize, like, hey, this team has these strengths, and you try your best to build up the team.
Right.
That's what the coach does. The coach is saying, hey, look, this team may not have a win, but these are the areas that they're really good. And he may call out a player, hey, you this week, you got the best player on their team, and you kind of make it competitive from a mental standpoint, so you can kind of stay on top of it, that you don't catch them, that they don't catch you sleeping.
All right, better question, because you're right. I mean, you guys are supposed to take every game the same.
Yeah.
But on tape, when you're watching the team, sometimes there's a winless team, like kind of like that, scratching and clawing and trying, and sometimes there's a team
That's
with 1 or
bad.
2 wins that's going the other way. And do you see that on tape sometimes?
Yeah. Well, so with this team, they fight and claw, and they do everything that they can to win. The coach is pulling out, trick plays, 2 consecutive punt, fakes and stuff like that. They're doing everything that they can in order to win games. It's just that they're depleted when it comes to players.
Right.
That comes down, and your quarterback doesn't play well. Khalif Brown, which is a grease man at best, I call a grease man, a guy that you just throw screens to, do reverses to. He's out catching posts.
Khalif Raymond.
Khalif Raymond, I said Khalif, yeah. So I'm sorry, but Khalif Raymond.
Probably a number 4.
Yeah, number 11. Yeah, he's number 4. Yeah, Khalif
right.
Raymond. I'm sorry, Khalif Raymond. He's catching daggers and posts and stuff, and he should be literally a guy that's catching screens and running reverses.
Sure.
So they're depleted.
All right. Well, depleted. These teams are a lot closer than maybe the standing suggests, because they rank neck and neck in total defense, which is both to say not good.
Yeah.
They're at the bottom in defense. And in offense, the Eagles do have a narrow lead over the Lions in total offensive yards. Neither of them are top 10 or 15 by any stretch of the means. But as we know with the Eagles, a third of their touchdowns have come in the second half when they've been down by double digits.
Right.
So they're a little bit of a sneaky offensive team in that they've piled up a lot of yards and points in garbage time. So this week, the Eagles have said they're close. You heard them had their press conference. They feel like, to borrow an Andy Reid phrase, Jay, the old we're one hair away from making things happen. Adam, I'm sure you've heard the coaches and players say that. When you look at this team, do you think that they're a little bit closer than the final score and the yards and stats suggest?
Well, let's put it this way. From a talent standpoint, they've severely underachieved. We've all,
Definitely.
on this panel, the 4 of us, and also when Baldy was here.
You think so?
No, yeah, I do.
You think from a talent standpoint they've underachieved?
Gainwell, no, I'm going to get into why. Gainwell, we said this every week. Gainwell needs to get the ball more. This staff bragged about how much they wanted Gainwell, and Sirianni wasn't hiding it, how much they loved him in training camp. Inconsistent the way he gets the football. Now, you can blame Jalen Hurts all you want, but from a play calling standpoint, he's got to get the ball in his hands. Jalen Reagor, you could argue maybe shouldn't have been a first-round pick. He's still going to go in the top 2 rounds. Explosive playmaker, barely touches the football. Nice touchdown catch last week, still barely gets the football. Quez Watkins is the big enigma here. Why does he not get the ball more?
Well, I don't think anybody gets the ball.
So all of this,
consistently.
so all of this adds up to guys who are gifted. They're not getting the football. It can't be all on Jalen Hurts here.
Yeah.
At what point do the coaches accept some of this responsibility?
And I'll flip that. I do think the Eagles are. I thought they were going to be struggle. So 2-5 does not surprise me. The way they've played on defense. I mean, they have veterans on defense. That doesn't mean veterans are good, but they make the kind. They go out there and look very young and inexperienced at times. Everybody on that defensive line has played football for a couple of years now. Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, Barnett, Josh Sweat. You've got 2 safeties who've been, one of them's 30, the other one's getting close to 30. You got 2 cornerbacks who post-played the league in a while. So we will talk about the coaches. We'll talk about the scheme. I'm factoring all that in.
Yeah.
But I didn't expect it to be looking this bad for guys who have played. It's not like they're throwing 7 or 8 rookies out there.
What is 4-11? 4-11 in one team, right?
Last year.
Last year. This is that team. And from a personnel standpoint, the Eagles, when you looked at their roster, most of us looked at it and said they're 5 to 7 win team.
Yes.
Somewhere in there. So we can't say like that the Eagles roster has ever been great this year.
Right.
Now, are they using the talent that they have the best way? That's the coaching thing. And that's what Adam is saying. But when you look at the roster, this team does not scare anyone. They don't scare anybody in the secondary. They don't scare anybody at the linebacker position, maybe up front at times on defensive line. The receivers doesn't scare anybody. The running backs don't.
Right.
And the coaches and Jalen Hurts doesn't. So when you go through and you bottom, position by position, you got a few winners. Maybe Miles Sanders, maybe Dallas Goedert, Fletch, Hargrave.
Right.
And Slay.
So they're not close to being a good team. It's
No,
really,
and that's why you can't get a Deshaun Watson or a person like that to agree out of a trade clause or whatever.
Right.
Because you're looking at the roster and like, you have all these comments about Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers next year. Nobody's coming to this team with this roster.
Right.
It's just not happening.
Not a good roster, right?
Yeah.
An aging team in many areas. Also a team that's missed on draft picks, several draft picks.
Yeah.
So it's a top to bottom thing. And of course, these coaches have to prove themselves, and right now they don't look very good to the public with what they've been doing. That's absolutely fair. Let's talk about the different contrasts here in the 2 coaches that are going up in this game, because it's a complete, as you were alluding to, Greg, like a different personality matchup between Dan Campbell here and Nick Sirianni. Dan Campbell, very infamous for his introductory press conference where he's going to kick in teeth and eat kneecaps, and Nick Sirianni famous for rock, paper, scissors, and now using flowers as metaphors. But does a team take on a coach's personality, or is that a little bit overdone? Jay.
Yes,
That'd be for Jason, yeah.
I'm glad. I'm glad.
Wait. Listen, are we
Which part are you
laughing at the
laughing at?
flower?
Yeah.
Or are
I'm
we
laughing
laughing
at the flowers
the
because
dude?
the flowers
Okay.
has been all over social media
Oh,
and
yeah.
every conversation this entire week about the flowers, right? There are certain things you say as a coach and you leave it for the team. Just don't give it to the media.
Right.
And he has to know that, and it's just him being unaware of the city that he's living in. And when he said it, I was like, dude, you can't say that in Philadelphia. Not at this time when you're losing games like this. But you say does teams take on this?
Does a team take on a head coach's personality? Do you think the Lions, the way they play, reflect Dan Campbell's "I want to eat your kneecaps"? And do the Eagles kind of reflect a head coach who's talking about flowers? Or is that a little overdone?
To be honest with you, once you think about it, like, the way the teams are playing, it kind of, aligns with both teams, because the Lions are fighting each and every week. We just seen their injury report, and they're in most of these games.
They are,
and they're fighting tooth and nail to try to get a win. The Eagles, on the other hand, look a little bit discombobulated, just like, some of these comments, or look a little bit, off at times, or all over the place, just, a little scrapple going on. It's a little bit of everything.
Definitely.
You know what I would say is this, and fans in Philly, of course, don't want to hear this, but the Eagles hired Sirianni, okay? They obviously hired him for a reason. We don't know how it's going to play out, but they obviously hired him because they thought he could become a very good head coach. He's young. He's never been a head coach, okay? He chose, and I assume, I don't know, was it his choice, Adam, or did Howie and Lurie get involved?
The defensive coordinator and assistants?
Yeah, because
it's usually a collaborative process, but a lot of these guys are
what
brought
they've
in
essentially
by,
hired is they've hired a second-year offensive coordinator, a first-time NFL quarterback coach, a first-time NFL D coordinator.
Right.
That's who they hired.
Right.
Okay? Now, they're learning too. We can sit here and rip them all day long, and maybe there's valid criticisms, but they're learning too. So the combination of what's probably a bottom third, not probably, let's lose the probably.
Yeah.
The combination of a bottom third roster and a young coaching staff that's learning on the job is going to lead to a 2-5 record. So this is where they are. This is what they are.
That's 100%.
Now, it doesn't play well in Philadelphia, as we know, and you certainly know this, but that's the reality of life.
Doug Peterson, what he came in with, Jim Schwartz, a seasoned and a former head coach, a seasoned defensive coordinator.
Sure.
Frank Reich.
John D. Filippo, maybe the best
Yeah.
quarterback developer.
Right.
He was able to inherit Jeff Stoutland as Sirianni did. So you just start with that, Jeff. That is distinct advantage that Doug Peterson had in 2016.
So we can debate whether it's right or wrong to bring in inexperienced assistants. That's a debate.
Sure.
But that's who they are.
Sure.
So they're learning too.
Right.
Yeah.
And we had criticisms
I've said
at
this all
times.
this week.
We had criticisms at times of guys like Ken Flageolt because of the linebackers and Corey Unlin because of how the cornerbacks played. But those guys were coaching in the NFL for quite a while.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Exactly.
Ken Flageolt had been a defensive coordinator, if I'm not
Under
mistaken.
Spags.
Under Spags. So it's not – this staff that Nick Sirianni has put together is very raw in comparison to
Correct.
what Doug brought in.
Very
Absolutely.
fair.
And not only that,
pointed
but
out.
if you look at the Lions staff, and I'm glad you mentioned that. This is a great tease, Greg. The Lions
I knew
have
that,
guys,
Jeff. I was trying to help you out.
You teed it up perfectly.
I've done this
Thank you.
before.
You have.
Yeah.
I've heard.
Yeah,
I've heard.
Thank you.
They bring in a staff, Aaron Glenn, right? And this is
First-year D coordinator.
First-year coordinator, but he was an
Former
NFL
player.
assistant coach for a while,
Yes.
also a former player. Obviously, Anthony Lynn, former head coach, right?
Been around a long time, Anthony Lynn.
Deuce
Player,
Staley.
yeah, coach,
Deuce
yeah.
Staley.
Been
former
around a long
assistant
time.
head coach. Right.
Yep.
They've got guys who have been in the NFL coaching guys for quite a while. And I think
And
that's
by the
a
way,
big
say what you
advantage.
want about Dan Campbell. I don't know Dan Campbell personally, but Dan Campbell was with Sean Payton for a lot of years.
And Bill
Yep,
Parcells.
And Bill
Parcells, yeah,
Parcells.
yeah.
So that background says something about Dan
Hank
Campbell.
Fraley,
Honey Buns is on there,
Yeah.
yeah. Hank
Yeah.
Fraley.
Fraley.
Is, yep.
Yeah.
Now,
Yep,
Aaron
that's
Glenn
all I got.
played for Parcells.
Correct.
Did he
Yes.
not?
For Dallas.
Yeah. So you can see, Parcells was that kind of guy.
I know
who
Aaron
wanted to
Glenn,
eat your
and he's a
kneecaps.
very-
I mean, the
Do you know
Jets,
Aaron
excuse
Glenn?
me, Jets.
Yeah, I've met him.
He's
I
a
met
very
him, yeah.
impressive guy.
Aaron Glenn was also in personnel early in his career with the Saints, but
Right.
Aaron Glenn actually, through another coach that I knew, and now I can't remember who that was, but Aaron Glenn, when he first got into coaching, called me through another coach that I
Yeah.
knew, and we talked on the phone quite a bit about just the league and different schemes and tactics and all. This was when he first got into coaching, so that's how I met him.
Sure. Like that Parcells coaching tree tends to breed a certain type of coach.
Yeah.
You'll hear things like eating kneecaps and kicking
Right.
They are, and look, Deuce I think fits perfectly with that model. Jay, before we move on, I just want to ask you, because I know we joke about the flower analogy, but if you just take the words by itself, right? The idea of our better days are ahead. We're trying to plant something. Everybody's got to do their job. The whole watering and fertilizing is just maybe a more colorful description of Bill Belichick, do your job. Everybody does their job, and this thing goes better. So the message itself is to me, is fair and correct.
It's accurate, and the message is correct. And like I said, it's something that you say in front of the team. You don't have to get that, detailed when you're dealing with the media. Why? Right. What do you have to do? Are you trying to make yourself sound better, or are you trying to make you sound like you're a philosopher or a poet or something? No, just go out and give them basic information, and they won't rip you for it. And your team can take the meat out of your message, not the media.
It's hard, because if you're Andy Reid and you say nothing, they'll rip you. If you're Nick Sirianni, who I appreciate his authenticness and that he is him till the end, he gets ripped anyway.
Well, that probably doesn't play with Joe from K&A, you know?
Yeah, no, it certainly does not. All right, well, the coach we haven't talked about yet is Jonathan Gannon, the defensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles, and his defense has been called a lot of things. Now, before he even coached the game, he was called brilliant, on the rise, a well-known name around the league, and now his defense is called boring, vanilla, non-aggressive, passive, whatever you want.
So I would only have one question in response to that, and I'm not defending Jonathan Gannon, because I have not met him, and I actually I'm looking forward to doing so after the season.
I'm sure it's mutual.
No, I don't know. I mean, I know he's very close friends with Brandon Staley, and I know Brandon Staley, who'll be here next week, by the way.
That's right.
So my question in response to that, and I'm not making a judgment here, would be why? Why do you think he's playing this way?
Listen, we talk about this on Inside the Birds all the time, right? That he didn't just wake up yesterday and start drawing up defense. We talk about this with Nick Sirianni and what he's doing with the quarterback. Everybody thinks, well, he doesn't run, or he calls too much of this, he calls too much of that, he babies the quarterback. Maybe, but why is he doing those things? Is it because from Monday to Friday he sees something in practice? I don't know. We're not there. We're not allowed to watch practice. But these coaches do something for a reason. But we're now in week 8.
I mean,
and what he's been
my
doing
guess is Jonathan Gannon doesn't wake up in the morning and say, you know what, this week I really want to be soft and not aggressive and allow teams to throw the ball with no problem.
Right.
My guess is he doesn't wake up and say that.
But at what
so
point
why is he playing
I don't know,
this
but
way,
at what point do you start to realize what I want to do is not working well either?
And that's fine, and then he might think, okay, what's the alternative? And I know in his mind he might say, I know for a fact that the alternative is horrible.
Yeah, I look at it from this. I look at it from the point that you all made earlier, in that this is a young coaching staff, doesn't have a lot of experience in the NFL. That's done for a reason. We can get in that a different day, but I just don't think that they have the tools in the toolkit to be able to adapt.
I agree
That's
with
just
that.
me.
How so?
In that, like, if you're making adjustments, or if you're going to be able to play man or switch up a style, usually that takes years to be able to figure out, right? We've seen when we said a few weeks ago of Jim Johnson, putting a new defensive front, changing coverages every quarter for Tom Brady. That takes years to be able to get to that level. And players to be able to do it. But what I'm saying is that usually a coach can figure it out, and you have enough in your tool bag to make an adjustment. And he's just staying in the same exact defense, and that's just telling me that he may not know, and he need players to adapt to his defense and not adapt to the players.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
What about minor? I'm not asking.
Well, it'd be interesting this week, for instance, to see if they play more man coverage. They've played a very small amount of man, because last week, and I assume it will be very similar this week, the Lions' predominant wide receivers in their 11 personnel package were Geronimo Allison, a rookie St. Brown, who I like from USC, Khalif Raymond, and then Hodge also got snaps.
Yeah.
So none of these guys are, when you look at it, you go, oh my God, we can't cover these guys.
Right.
So, and I'm not saying he will or he won't, but this would seem to be a week if you're going to play some man coverage.
You're going to blitz.
And you're going to blitz, right?
This would be the week.
Yes. This would seem to be the week And particularly with the quarterback, because the quarterback does not handle bodies around him very well at all.
Yep.
I agree.
You know,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
Even if you do just 4-man pressure, this is a week you could disguise. You could change it up a little bit, because this is what Jeff, you and I were in training camp, and I saw Greg there as well. I would remark to you, wow, this is really interesting what Gannon's doing.
Yep.
We saw some this week 1, but after that, it was like, okay, I can't do it, or I don't want to do it. Maybe I don't have the personnel to do it, which certainly is true. We've talked about the linebacker issue, but at some point, you got to feel like your guys can do it, because this is going to keep happening. You know, Greg asked the question, why? Well, we know the why, because maybe they don't have the talent, but you can't just be this vanilla all season and think this is going to work.
Yeah, and that's what you look at it and you say, where's the adjustments at all? Like, is there any exotic coverage that you have? Can I see something? Can I see a cover 5? Can I see, guys roll out of the sky? Can I see some man or a zero blitz? Can I see just something that's a little bit different? Guys blitzing from different spots, and I haven't seen it all year, so I can't assume that it's just the players. He doesn't have the players. It's looking to me that he doesn't have as much information as an NFL coach, would have at this stage.
Is it possible that you can move the safeties up a few miles? Like, I mean, these guys
The
are out of
linebackers
the
too.
picture
Yeah.
all the time. And against a team like Greg just mentioned, where you really don't have a burner, a deep threat, any top flight wide receiver to worry about, do you even need 2 safeties? I mean, last week we saw more cover 1, but even when they were in cover 1, the deep safety was really deep.
Yeah.
Is there a guy that speed is so blazing today that you really have to have a safety that deep to work?
There's some Raymond can run.
Yeah.
There's some
Raymond
guys
can run a
that
little bit, but
he's a
those
shot
guys can
play
run.
guy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
he's a
can
shot
run.
play guy.
Like
Okay.
there's guys that can run. Doesn't mean that they're going to be able to get open down the field,
Right,
because you
right.
got to do a lot before you can run.
right.
It's hard to believe this, but when Jimmy Garoppolo completed 73% of his passes in week 2 against the Eagles, that would weeks later be one of the worst performances against the Eagles defense this year. Derek Carr completed 91.2% of his passes. On the heels of Tom Brady with 81% and Dak Prescott in week 3 at 80.8%, 4 quarterbacks have completed 80% or more of their passes against the Eagles this year. So I agree that there's a why behind this, but I would feel like a coach could try to do something a little bit. If we had seen something different, way different, and it's still not working, okay, maybe I say, you just going out there doing what you can.
Well,
but
today would seem to be the day.
Today has to be a day where
With
Jonathan
the
Gannon's got
combination of
something
the receivers
different.
and the quarterback, something you would think that there'd be. And again, when we say blitz, it doesn't mean you blitz on 50% of the dropbacks.
Right.
But you'd like to see some
higher
kind of pressure.
percentage.
Yes. And by the way, when you blitz, as Jason knows, you don't have to play man behind it.
Right.
I just wanted 2 blitz.
Right.
That's it. Yeah.
Right, but you don't have to play man. There's zone pressures and there's man pressures.
Sure.
You do not have to play man coverage behind pressure.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we will see if Jonathan Gannon has some kind of wrinkle in store today, because I feel like this is the offense to do it against. What's up?
Do you remember when they, just one thing, remember when they played Luke Falk? I think he was the quarterback for the Jets. And Schwartz, for the first time,
every single
I think
play.
it was 50%.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
I think, did they have like 10 sacks? Or
Yeah,
11
the
sacks?
one
I
was
remember Orlando
bananas.
Scandrick had a
Yeah.
touchdown. I
Yeah,
think Nate
It was
Gary
good.
had a touchdown.
This would be the game, and I understand Goss inexperienced, talented quarterback, but he struggles with pressure. This would be the week to do it.
Yep.
Bring it. I bring it this week.
And you asked me again another thing, just a point, real quick. Adam, you asked me why. Why don't I think that he has more in the tool bag? Because I don't think that he will have disgruntled players. A guy like Fletcher Cox is not going to be that disgruntled, right? And saying things in the media if he believed in the coach's tool bag.
Correct.
I just don't. I just don't.
That is, you guys are 2 for 2 on teases to the next segment.
Oh,
We're gonna
sorry,
talk about,
sorry.
No, that's perfect. It's great.
Good setup.
Don't apologize.
Yeah,
it makes
good
my
setup.
job a lot easier.
Well,
I wanted to
so
talk
you're
about
done
the
now.
comments.
We got it. We got it.
There you go. So the comments from Fletcher Cox after the game, I thought, were concerning just for one small reason. It's not uncommon for a guy to kind of voice his displeasure, but this was the second time this year that Fletcher Cox said something about his alignment and the way he was playing. The first time happened a couple of weeks ago. The coaches said, we're going to talk about it. And now it happens again weeks later, and the coaches again said, oh, well, we appreciate his point of view. We're going to talk about it. It sort of feels like the talking isn't really doing anything at this point. I don't see any changes in how they're do you see changes in how they use him?
No,
They still
I mean,
use him as a 3, right, at some times?
Again, what has been a foundational front for them is the 5-man front.
Right.
Okay? I can only give you my opinion. You know,
Sure.
Jonathan Gannon's there every day. I don't think that that particular look really plays to the strengths of certain players. I don't think it plays to the strengths of Josh Sweat, who's basically playing on the strong side inside of Avery as kind of a 4-4-I. I don't think that plays to his strengths at all. I know you agree with that.
Yeah.
I think Cox is a player that is ultimately a 3 technique who needs space, because Cox can beat you a multitude of ways. He can beat you with power. He can beat you with quickness. He needs space to operate. There's less space to operate in the 5-man front. So I'm speaking solely from a football standpoint. I don't think that this front truly helps some of their players.
So why is he playing?
I can't answer that.
Because I understand.
It goes
look,
back to the same thing.
I get a new coach wants to build a
can't answer
philosophy,
that.
right? A new coach wants to put a philosophy in, and he's hoping, like the flower, what he's doing now, hope it grows into something. And it might have different personnel involved, but I don't know if you have the opportunity to have a free pass year in the NFL anymore.
You know, I will say this before Jason jumps in. This 5-man front, because I watch as many teams as I can every week, this 5-man front's become a very trendy in the NFL. There's a lot of teams that play 5-man reduced fronts, okay? And I'm not exactly sure what the philosophy necessarily is behind all that, but the Eagles are not the only team doing this.
Is it to avoid double team? You put 5 up
well,
front, then your offensive line can't double
in an ideal world, what it does, particularly if you're doing it out of your nickel, is it forces one-on-one protection.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what it does.
Right.
So theoretically, that's a positive if you have good. Like if you're the Rams, you want Aaron Donald one-on-one. Okay. So it forces one-on-one protection, but you know there's. As with most everything, there's pros and cons.
Yeah.
Doesn't it also, in the running game, and if I'm wrong, tell me, take away the ability to double team multiple guys on the line when you're trying to, if you have 5 defensive linemen, 5 offensive linemen, you can't, well, you can leave
Well, you're not going to double team
but
all of them anyway because the run goes to one side or the other.
Yeah. Fair.
Yeah, usually you're gonna leave. They're probably gonna leave a guy free anyway.
Right.
So, and the answer to that is no, because the Cowboys double teamed us, you know, in the second half of that game, majority of the time for big yardage.
Especially on the inside. Yeah,
especially
you're
on the
right
inside.
about
So,
that. Okay.
like I said, when you start getting disgruntled players and guys that are credible and that have had some success, you begin to question, okay, does the coaching staff have their respect? And it doesn't seem to be.
And that's the concern. It's not whether they grow as coaches, because they will. I mean, I'm sure they're not. Look, we've heard all these guys are very smart guys. They will grow as coaches. But you hit it right on the head as a former player. You know, the players have to feel like it's going in the right direction.
You got to get the buy-in.
Yeah.
The buy-in is really key here. Now, it's not like they're not playing hard. It's Cox speaks up. He's clearly frustrated, and then he talks how he needs to be a leader. He's a team captain. Okay, great. But we know that how they're being used is not working. Josh Sweat's the biggest one. We can talk about Cox all we want. Josh Sweat has been a big disappointment because of the way that they're using. We pointed this out 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Absolutely.
And it's just not working. And Josh Sweat is a really good player who looks like just a guy right now.
Well, they signed to a pretty good deal.
Yeah, $13 million a year.
And look, I recognize that Fletcher's overall level of play has declined over the year. I know he's not the 2018 version of Fletcher Cox, but he's not 0 sacks through 7 weeks, Fletcher Cox. I can't imagine. I think he still plays hard, and I think he's very frustrated. And I still would expect him, even in a declining year, to have 4 sacks, 5 sacks, 2 by the midway point, and you've got 0 right now.
Remember, Fletcher's the captain, right? So other players on the team won't feel comfortable enough in order to speak out against, their role.
Right.
But they will relay it to him, and he feels the responsibility as the captain to be the one that voices, because what's the worst that can happen? He gets cut and go and make money in another place, so he has the pull. So it's not only Fletcher that's thinking like this. There's a bunch of guys that's relaying this to him.
All right. Well, we'll see if again any changes in store today in defensive line alignment, and if Fletcher Cox can get off the sack schneid on Halloween. Let's take a quick break.
Easy for you to say.
We're going to take a quick break to hear from our friends at Sky Motor Cars, and of course the voice of the Eagles, Mr. Merrill Reese.
Motor Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people all over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schulter makes sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
All right, if you head on out to Sky Motor Cars in Westchester, PA, make sure you tell them Adam or Jeff sent you. You'll get a great deal. Always do. Real quick on Goff, getting back to him. I remember last year, the Rams came in here, played the Eagles, beat them, 3 touchdown passes to the tight ends. And the biggest thing I remember about this game, based on what you guys were saying, was those touchdowns came when they kind of surprisingly rolled him out of the pocket, got him away from the Eagles' interior pressure. But if you remember, as that game went on, you can't do that all game with Jared Goff. The Eagles did get pressure on Goff in the second half where they started to make it a little bit of a game.
Yeah.
Because he had to be a pocket quarterback against an interior rush. So today, do you see much rolling out in this offense with Jared Goff?
They don't do a ton, no. Goff has definitely declined. I don't know why. I mean, I think everybody knew what he was, or I felt when I studied him, because obviously he came in the same year as Wentz. I studied Goff really hard. I studied all the quarterbacks coming out. I probably watched 8 or 9 of their games their last year, and then I watched some from the year before in college. And to me, Goff wasn't a mystery as to what he was. He's a pretty thrower. He's a pocket quarterback. Never had a gun, but his arm was good enough to make every throw. Not, like I said, not really a mover. But it seems that his deficiencies have now come out more. And, and it's funny, we were talking about him before, and I'll just read you what my notes were. It's what I typed, because I believe this anyway, but I knew we were going to be doing this. I said, Goff has never been an overly efficient pocket mover, and that has significantly limited his growth and development as an NFL quarterback. Since he lacks second reaction movement ability, he needs to manage the pocket at a higher level, and that has always been an issue for him. Right now, Goff is not playing with a lot of poise and composure in the pocket. He is playing fast, both anticipating and perceiving pressure. So you got to get people around Goff.
I always looked at Jared Goff like this. He's a highly programmed quarterback. When you take him out of his comfort zone, boy, does he struggle. I'm not saying as much as Sam Darnold, but he, and Jason, you were talking about it earlier, he just doesn't feel it. Like he doesn't sense, you always talk about Brady where he doesn't see it, but he feels it, and he just knows how to move. And Greg was talking about the pocket movement, the subtle pocket movement. He doesn't have that.
I think that's fair. I think he's programmed is a very good word. He's programmed, he's mechanical, he's robotic. There's not an instinct to the way he plays.
And you take him out of that, he struggles.
So only maybe 75% completion for him today?
I agree.
Yeah.
Only maybe 75% completion for Jared Goff today against the Eagles defense?
Well, if you don't
which would only rank like 6th this year against the Eagles.
If you don't blitz, if you don't bring pressure, if you don't disguise at least a little bit to make him indecisive, look what they did to Sam Darnold. They got pressure relentlessly against Carolina the last time they won, ironically.
They have to dominate the game. If they do what they did the last few weeks, Jared Goff is going to play really well. And his job is, on the line. And there's a lot of talks about, the backup. So the Eagles may mess around and give him job security if they keep doing the same thing.
Well, it's funny because programmed and mechanical can also be a positive, and because they sound like 2 negative words.
Right.
But there have been quarterbacks who've played at a very high level in this league who I would use the same terms, but in a positive way.
Sure.
Like Carson Palmer was very programmed. But he was a great thrower. You remember him, I'm sure. But he was a great thrower of the football.
Sure.
And he had a feel for what he was seeing. Sometimes programmed and mechanical can be a negative. And Goff was programmed and mechanical, by the way, when he got to a Super Bowl. He was just with Sean McVay, who had a really good system and could really define things well for him so that he had less to do after the snap of the ball.
Sure.
Right now, he's struggling. A lot of quarterbacks go through this. They go through stages where they struggle. It's what happens when they come out of it.
The other thing, too, is that he had winners. When you talk about Rashawn Woods, and you talk about
Robert Woods,
and Kupp.
Yeah.
He has winners on the outside, and you have, now you have all backup receivers. So now your number one option, and you talk about a program quarterback, your number one, number two option isn't there. Now it's a problem.
That's a great point.
All right, let's play a quick game. No context necessary. You're a head coach. You have to win a game. You have your choice of these 3 quarterbacks: Jared Goff, Jimmy Garoppolo, or Sam Darnold? Who are you
No,
taking?
come
I would take Garoppolo. Now, Garoppolo, I know, is struggling a little bit, but Garoppolo got to the Super Bowl a couple years ago.
Well,
So did
so did
Jared
Goff.
Goff.
Right, so did Goff, but I think,
Both in great systems.
yep, I like Garoppolo a little bit better. Goff is way too much. I just don't think he could. He's just too highly programmed, where I think Garoppolo, other than the injuries, which are somewhere on
He's
him.
a little program, too.
Yeah, he is, but I think he's got a little bit more athleticism to him.
All right, so you're taking Garoppolo,
Yeah, I would
Greg?
take Garoppolo.
It depends on what offensive line I have.
No,
Go
no,
ahead.
no context.
There's no
No
context?
context. We can play that
I
game
would
all
probably
day
take
long.
Garoppolo of that
You
group.
would take Garoppolo.
Yeah, if there's no context, you got to take Garoppolo because he's able to move better.
Darnold, to me, is
I think
just
I would take
regressed.
Goff. By a slight hair over Garoppolo.
And that's fair.
Okay, but
Well.
again, you said no context. So you got to put him in a system with an experienced play caller.
Yeah.
Well,
no
developed
context.
You do have to do with
No context.
Garoppolo,
Yeah, of
too.
course.
No, we
do that
haven't
with every
talked-
quarterback.
Here's a
yeah.
question, though, Greg. We've not talked about Detroit's offensive line. How have they played to you?
Well, it's funny because I made a note who they're playing now because of injuries. From left to right, they got Sewell, Jackson, Brown, Vaitai, and Nelson. Now, I think Sewell's actually played pretty well because he's a natural left tackle. He played right tackle in the preseason before Decker
Wasn't good.
and he wasn't very good at all.
Yeah. Right.
There was a total disconnect between his upper body and his lower body. He just didn't feel right. You could almost tell watching him that it just
Big
wasn't.
V went through a little. I mean,
Yeah.
not Big V. Mylata went through a little bit.
Yeah,
of this
you can
move
just
back
tell
there.
he was not comfortable at all. He
Andre
was
Dillard went through.
He wasn't comfortable with the kick
Just comfortable,
slide at
right,
all because it's a
comfortability.
totally
Yeah.
different foot you're kick sliding with.
Right.
It's a totally different side of your body you're anchoring with.
Yep.
He was
Yeah.
not the least bit comfortable. He's a,
Malata?
No,
I'm
Penei
talking about
Sewell.
Sewell.
Yeah.
Sewell, okay.
Sewell is a natural left tackle, and he's
Right.
played pretty well.
Right. I know the.
I actually think the left side of their line's pretty good. Jackson's the Rutgers kid who transferred to Ohio State for his senior year.
Yeah.
And I liked his tape coming out.
Yeah.
And I thought he'd be a starting guard in the league, and he is.
Yeah.
And I think he's solid. Losing Ragnow is a big deal. A big deal.
Definitely. Absolutely. That offensive line wouldn't be so bad if Ragnow and Decker were.
Oh, yeah.
were
Oh, without
healthy.
question.
Top five.
Probably be
Easy.
pretty good.
Yeah. They counted, as Adam knows, when they drafted Sewell, they thought the offensive line would be the strength of their team, and they could actually build a solid run game with two quality backs, a quarterback who needs to be protected. At that time, and they thought they'd have the receivers who are not playing now. So they actually thought their offense would have some kind of continuity and stability to it.
Sure.
And a quarterback who does need a run game. Goff
Right.
needs a
He
run
needs
game
a
to
run
work
game.
off of because
Yeah.
he has one, but he also has. Jason
But not
pointed
one like
out-
he had with Todd Gurley. See, that's
No,
the other
well, that's-
factor we
that-
talk about Goff. Gurley for
done.
those 2-3
Right,
years with
right.
the Rams
He's
was,
the best running back in football.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
he's
But
certainly top 3 if not.
I would
right.
argue if you just look at what they're working with now, this is the NFL's worst receiver corps.
I think
Detroit.
that's
They're
fair.
all, as Jason said, they're all backups, but they're
Not a
having
big
to
fan
play.
of Geronimo Allison, are you?
Geronimo Allison.
All right, we got a lot to
Another
get
Big
into.
Ten kid, remember him from Illinois?
Yeah.
The Packers too.
Yeah,
Yep.
we got a lot to get into. We're going to
run.
continue to cover this game, X's and O's. But first, we're going to stop and hear from our friends at Rivers Casino and Sportsbook here in Philadelphia.
This is my city. This is a city that knows how to play. A city that's in it for the win. So I go to the place that gets that. Where they know how Philly likes to play. And where I know my seat is always ready. This is my place.
All right, those are our friends, Rivers Casino and Sportsbook here. Come on down, place a bet, bring your friends, great drinks, food specials, watch the show. Adam won't take his mask off until you get here, and it'll be a great time. You all right?
Yeah, my
didn't
beard
offend
is
you.
still on, though.
Okay, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to offend you. I'll pick on somebody. I'll pick on Cosell next time.
That's okay, I got a face
Too
for
easy.
radio.
All right, as we start hour 2 of Inside the Birds pregame live, we do it as we always do every week with a segment with former Eagles safety Quentin Michael called Q's Views. And on this episode of Q's Views, we talk about what has to change today for the Eagles to get a win. All right, we are here with former Eagles safety and co-host of the Q&A show on Inside the Birds. It's Quentin Michael. Q, let's start it off right now. The Eagles are 2-5, and just the tone of the Q&A show and the tone of the city is things are really bad right now. When you watch this team and you see them at 2-5, how much do you see that is correctable? How much do you see as just a talent issue?
I would say right now it's about 50-50. We knew kind of going into this year that there were going to be some growing pains. This is a young team. They're going to make some mistakes. They're going to have some issues. I think defensively, the bigger issue is more of a talent issue in the terms, especially in the middle of the field. We've been kind of discussing it all year, but I think the talent issue in the middle of the field, linebacker core, the safeties, has got to get a little bit better. And offensively, on the other side, it's more of a kind of a scheme / just being young and learning the game issue. So it's actually unfortunate because you never want to have both of those issues kind of going on at the same time, but that's where we are right now. So the biggest thing I would say offensively is they've got to get together and get their timing right. They've got to practice, stay extra after practice, especially in the passing game. Spend those extra few minutes, making sure, even if you think you got it right, making sure that it's perfect for Sunday. Because even if it's perfect in practice, it's never going to be perfect in a game, but you can get as close as you can to in practice time. So, and defensively, it's just those guys just got to play better. They've got to understand where they're supposed to drop, where they're supposed to be, and cover better. I mean, that's the biggest issues.
Yeah, you were a Pro Bowl safety. You know defense as well as anyone. When you look at this Eagles defense from top to bottom and some of the issues that we've discussed with it, what would be one simple change you would make that you think could make a bigger difference?
I think the one change I would make is you have to change up your coverages. You have to change up your defenses, and you have to be able to trust and blitz and pressure the quarterback more. I know it sounds like a lot, but it really isn't. Changing up the coverage is not in my opinion, a big change. Blitzing every now and then is not a big change. So I think schematically, the defense has got to start to change up their coverages and try to make the opposing quarterback feel uncomfortable. I feel like every game the quarterback just seems very comfortable in the pocket, doesn't move around, can go through his entire reads and pick apart our defense.
What is the identity of the Eagles offense and defense right now, and what should be the identity?
Yeah, that's the thing. That's been the big question all year. It doesn't seem like we have an identity on any three phases of the game, even in special teams. It seems like we're still trying to search and figure out what we want to do. It feels like offensively, each game we have a different game plan. Defensively, we've changed up things, and it's really frustrating because it's kind of hard to, as a player, to really feel confident about any type of scheme when it's constantly changing. I think offensively we need to run the ball more. It needs to be more of a downhill run game. I think Jalen's skill set is better matched with, not want to say old school, but, run the football for a second down, play action pass, throw the ball deep down the field. Like that right now suits his skill set. Defensively, we need to be an aggressive attack style defense instead of a sit back and bend don't break type defense. And I think if you look at this team in this area, that's really what it's built for. It's built for attacking on offense down the field. It's built for attacking with the front seven, on defense. And so if we can get back to doing those things, I think we'll have more success.
There have been times where Jalen Hurts has been inaccurate. There are times where you feel that the offensive play calling doesn't put the quarterback in a great position to succeed. Is there a hand-in-hand deal there? Do you think that both could help each other out in this regard?
Yeah, I do think so. I think scheme-wise, we've got to, for Jalen, we've got to be able. You got to understand he's a young quarterback. He's not really played a whole lot of football, so he's not going to see the things that you think he should see right now. I mean, he's on the field. He's the one in the pocket. He's the one, calling the huddle. He's the one taking the ball in the center. So those things are him, and that stuff he's got to deal with. But I think offensively, play calling wise, you can help him out by putting him in situations where he can have some easier reads. He can throw the ball inside more. He can throw the ball to the tight ends over the middle a little bit more and clear out the middle with certain types of scheme and route schemes. And then obviously at the end of the day, you have to run the football. I mean, you have to be able to run. Even Tom Brady has a good running game. And so if you look at it like that and say, if we just get back to basics and go back to regular, normal football, where we run the ball first, second down, maybe even third down, and just keep opposing defenses kind of off balance, it'll help him long run.
What did you think about the messaging that came out of the NovaCare complex this week?
I didn't really, honestly, to be honest with you, I didn't really see a whole lot of it. A lot of what I see, it's, listen, it's a completely different way than I'm used to. I'm used to coaches kind of, Coach Andy Reid, he never really said much in the media. And so I'm not really used to all the talking coming out of it. And it just seems like a lot of talking in circles, a lot of coach speak. And, I don't want to get too deep into that stuff, but it just doesn't seem like if I'm a player in that locker room, I'm not even listening to it. I'm going to practice and I'm gonna focus on what I got to focus on and let's go. Cause it seems like it's the same thing every week and it's long-winded explanations. And, let's just get back to winning. That's it.
The Lions are 0-7. They have several one-possession losses. They fight fairly hard. Does this feel like a scarier game than maybe ordinarily it would be?
Yeah. This is a scary game, and this is 0 for a team. They're hungry. They have a chip on their shoulder, and they feel like they should have won a few of those games. They probably should have won a couple of those games, especially the Ravens game. That game was crazy. And on top of that, you got Deuce coming back, who's felt slighted by the organization. So they're gonna be hungry. They're gonna be ready to go. They're gonna be ready, to get a win. So I don't think this is the team. Now, listen, we're 2-5, so we're not that far much better. But I don't think this is a team that you can overlook and just say, "Yep, that's definitely a win." So they're going to be ready. It's going to be a tough one.
All right. Well, do what you do best, Q. Give us the score and the outcome.
This is a tough one for me, honestly. I don't know. I think ultimately it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a hard-fought game. I do think that the Eagles can pull it out. I think they just have enough firepower offensively when those guys get in space and we get the ball down the field and they connect. I think that the Eagles can pull out this one. So I'm gonna have the Eagles winning a close one. I'm gonna say 27-20, 24. Eagles win by 3, and it's gonna go down to the wire, I believe.
All right, an Eagles win on a Jake Elliott field goal in the fourth quarter. You heard it here from Quentin Michael. He is Quentin Michael, former Eagles Pro Bowl safety, and those are Q's views. Thanks, Q.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
All right, great stuff from former Eagles Pro Bowl safety Quentin Michael, who tag teams with our own Jason Avant every week to bring you the Q&A show on Inside the Birds podcast. Thursday morning, 6 a.m. Make sure you catch the next one. Last one was a real passionate one. You guys were
90 minutes.
Guys were heated.
Yeah,
90 minutes worth of fire from Q and Jason there. Speaking of fire, Public Square and Rebel Hill are back. The team of James and Zach are back behind controls, bringing Inside the Birds to you in high definition with great graphics, videos, and more. Contact Public Square Media and Rebel Hill Productions to produce your webcast, podcast, live show, or anything else you can dream of. This team can bring it to life. All right, we are in hour 2, and we've talked a lot about the Eagles' defense so far and maybe what might or needs to change. We're going to get into the offensive side. Remember, come on down to Rivers Casino. I already see people piling in. We got the Eagles jerseys. I saw a Gronk jersey out there.
Really?
From the Patriots. So
Patriots
you're always going to run into
jersey.
people who have jerseys from other teams. But obviously people getting excited on Halloween for what should be a very interesting game against the Eagles and the Lions. Huge flat screen TVs to be able to watch this thing up in person and have some drinks and kick back with your friends. It's really a great time here at Rivers
Sometimes
Casino.
you can watch our show live on the big screens.
You can come here. We've had, I think a week ago, we had a couple of people just come sit behind the set here and catch the show, and we always appreciate that. Got a couple of comments here from YouTube that we will get into. One of them says, Gardner Minshew, not Gardner, Gardner, as in quotes, like, flower, fertilizer. Gardner Minshew, fully fertilized, watered, ready to pop. That came from G. Miller Training.
Very nice.
Which kind of is a good segue to our segment here about Jalen Hurts, who has said many times going into the year that the rent is due, and he does not plan on missing any payments. I think it's fair to say a couple of the payments have been late recently, and obviously with the recent trade of Joe Flacco, the backup quarterback to the Jets, and we do see Gardner Minshew now as the number 2 quarterback, you wonder, and some have, if we're close to eviction time for Jalen Hurts. Let me be the first to say I think that we're too early for that conversation. I think that Jalen Hurts needs to be given a lot more time. Well, more time than pushing the panic button and going to Gardner Minshew. But certainly there are things that we're seeing from Jalen Hurts that I don't want us to sound like a broken record, Greg. I mean, you've talked about a couple of things that you see week after week that seem to be the same. I imagine when you watch tape against the Raiders, you may have seen similar issues as far as not seeing everybody or accuracy.
Here's my sense of it from the overview perspective, which you've probably talked about before, but I think it needs to be reiterated. My sense is, right or wrong, people can take whatever judgment they want, that they've tried to play to what Jalen Hurts has been his whole life. He's been a shotgun quarterback. That's how he grew up in the game, with a lot of zone read, those kinds of things. People may forget that at Alabama, he was essentially benched because he couldn't throw the ball really well. That's the reason he was benched at Alabama.
Right.
Then he sort of resuscitated his career at Oklahoma in a highly schemed pass offense in a Big 12 conference where defense is not the priority for seemingly so, yes. So Jalen Hurts came into the NFL as a quarterback that was a second-round pick, which of course gets people excited, as a quarterback that had clear passing deficiencies that had to be worked on. So my sense, as I said, is that they've been trying to play to what they believe he is and what he's been his whole career as a player. You can debate whether that works in the NFL or not. I'm not a believer that an RPO run game is a true run game in the National Football League. By the way, I think the Chiefs are finding that out as well, to some extent.
Right.
Different conversation, but just as a general football point. So we've seen that even playing this way, that Hurts has been inconsistent. So now the question is, what's the next move? When I saw what they did last week on the first possession, putting him under center for 5 consecutive plays, I think one was a penalty, but it was 5 consecutive plays, running the ball, and then having the play action throw, which was a perfect route combination against cover 3, as Jason knows. It was essentially a flood concept, a 3-level stretch, and he hits Goddard. You know, I'm thinking to myself, this is something I thought
we've been asking for,
that I felt they should have done, because I felt that they should have tried to get him to play in the way the Cowboys got Dak Prescott to play his rookie year. Prescott came out of the same spread college system, inaccuracies as a passer, went to a whole different team with a whole different approach. They put him under center, and Dak Prescott has grown each and every year as a quarterback to the point where now he is a high-level NFL quarterback. None of us know where Jalen Hurts will go. All we have is what he is now. I'm not making a judgment on what is a year from now. I don't believe he should be benched. I think you've got to play him and see what he is. Okay? But I think they need to make some adjustments offensively, put him under center, try to run the football, get the play action pass game working. That will also, in my view, jump in here, please. I think that will help the receivers.
Help the receivers out a bunch. Under center, they went down the field like knife through butter. The first drive.
8
and
plays?
It was right down the field, under center. I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, oh, this is what Greg is talking about, and this is what we know about football. You get under center, you make that play action read. It's just a lot easier. And it helps them out. The run game helps them out. It's defined. We know what we're doing. We see this look all the time. The lineman can fire off, and they didn't go back to it. They went back to it on the third drive at the beginning of it to Miles, and then after that, they didn't go back too much.
They were done.
All right. So I want to bring that up. Sometimes that's flow of the game, and clearly they got ball possession by the opponent for quite a bit. But also, they did some things on that first drive. They used 2 tight ends. They used J.J. Arcega-Whiteside as sort of a, if you want to call it, 12.5 personnel. He's a blocking wide receiver like a tight end. How much of that would have really been sustainable for 60 minutes, or how much of that is we can open up in our scripted 15 plays and get at it, take you by surprise?
You mean putting him under
running
center?
the ball with 2 tight ends and then using Arcega-Whiteside. He's not part of your base offense ordinarily.
You can do that because
then you're running a totally different offense, though. I'm just saying.
So you can absolutely play with 2 tight ends, particularly since one of them can easily be split out. You can absolutely play with 2 tight ends.
I know that. It's not really just 2 tight ends. It's 2 tight ends bunched in, Arcega-Whiteside as a blocking wide receiver, and you're going under center.
Well, I don't think you play with Arcega-Whiteside, for 40
But that
snaps.
was a big part of their success, is that look bred success. How long could they have stuck with that look and been successful.
You actually can. So this is Nick Sirianni. That's what he wants to do. The first drive is what Nick Sirianni has shown us in the past. This is what he wants to do. This new system is something that he's adapted because of Jalen Hurts' supposed skill set, rather than making him conforming Jalen to Nick Sirianni's, conventional play calling ability.
Sure.
They've adapted to Jalen. So it's something that we have to figure out. And talking about Jalen, the inaccuracy is just a problem. It's a big problem.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about easy throws, slants to Devontae Smith,
Two he
RPO
missed.
slant.
Yeah.
this is the play call
the RPO
that
slant
we
was
are
rough.
that we are putting in for you because you're comfortable with this.
Right.
Not something that we want to do, but it's an RPO stamp. It's a 5-step slant, and one's in the dirt,
throws it
one's
at his
behind.
feet. Yeah.
You can't
and
throw
one's
behind
behind.
him. You can't do that.
Can we all kill a narrative right here on this show
keeps
that
happening.
whenever there's a pass like that's inaccurate or off their hands, that it's not the play calling or the play design, and that's why
course.
Jalen Hurts is struggling?
Yeah.
Because
Nothing to
we
do
hear
with
this all
it.
the time. Well, if he was with a coach who did that, no.
Or if his
that's a
offensive
play.
line is
Make
better,
the
that's another
play.
bad
But
narrative.
that plays for him.
Yes.
That's
Right.
They
That's
put
right.
this in
Designed for
him.
him. Exactly.
So we have to make those. At
Yes.
least make those.
Absolutely. Have
Yeah.
to make those plays. Greg, did you feel like the leaving the pocket early happened a lot last year? I mean, last
week?
Yeah.
Well, not as much.
Right. It
Not
seemed
as
like the
much.
pocket got to him before he even had a chance to leave a little
but,
bit.
But I mean, that's still something he has to work on. That's a work in progress.
Right.
Again, he's played that way his whole career because he's always been able to run. So you walk that balance, and these are tough conversations. I've had these conversations with coaches at the Combine for years, and I know Adam's done that as well. It's not an easy answer. This is not a quantitative thing about quarterbacks that have running ability staying in the pocket versus not staying in the pocket.
Right.
There's no rule book for that. And sometimes they cross the line, obviously, and they leave the pocket when they shouldn't, and they leave plays on the field. Hurts he's done that since he became a starter last year.
Right.
And he leaves too many throws on the field.
Sure.
But the simple throws, I had a great conversation with Kurt Warner last summer, and I've known Kurt now for a while, and we talk quarterbacks a lot. And I love his expression. He said, if you can't make layups, you can't play quarterback in the NFL. And that's basically what we're talking about.
Right.
There's too many hard throws.
Right.
If you can't make the layups, you can't play.
Plus, off of that, the tight window throws are greater here. It's just you're not getting the cavern of space that you get in college football.
Right.
When they have it perfectly designed, it's a crosser. Smith is there. He's got his man beat.
Right.
This is easily. It's a minimum of 20 yards, even if he gets tackled.
Right.
You can't throw it behind him. How many times have we said on our show, well, on Wednesday when we do the tape study show that we go, when the throws there, make it. Don't have the pass target slow up.
Right.
That is not on Devontae Smith.
That's why I've
on the
always used the
quarterback.
term, and Adam knows this, I'd use the term ball placement or ball location,
Ball location,
as
right.
opposed to
I like that.
accuracy.
Yeah.
Right.
Because, there's a lot of passes in the NFL where the ball is caught, and you say, oh, that's a good throw, but it's not a good throw
Right.
because it might be over here.
Right.
And Jason knows this.
Yeah.
I've always believed
No yards.
I've always believed that run after catch is 90% on the quarterback, not
Yes.
the receiver.
Jason,
100%.
where do you?
Yeah, 100%.
As a receiver, where do you want the football? Here?
Well, it depends on the route.
No, but
If I'm
On an
running,
over.
yeah,
On an over.
on an over route, slant route, you want the ball in front of you, like 1 yard, like right in front of you.
Right.
Put your hands so
There
you
you
can
go.
continue to go. And yes, all yards after catch, most of the time, is going to be because of the quarterback's accuracy, his timing,
Right.
and his accuracy.
Right.
And timing is just as important as being accurate.
Correct.
Because there's a point at a breaking point where you have like the optimal separation. And you want to get the ball when you're at that optimal separation point so
Yeah.
you can be able to run afterward.
The-
I'll tell you this, as far as receiver standpoint, the receivers in our offense don't get a bunch of separation. And the other thing, too, we're getting a lot of zone teams and a lot of zone coverage. They don't snap off their routes. They peak too much, meaning, like, there was a route where Devontae Smith dropped his first pass, and the guy got right up on him, and he knocked it out. But for his last step and a half, he's looking at the quarterback. You run full speed, and you snap off, and then you flip and turn. So that guy's always backing up before the ball is coming. But if you start leaning into it and looking, he's going to break before the quarterback is getting the ball out. So even in zone, you snap off routes, and our guys just run in zone like oh, the guy's not looking at the quarterback and he's not looking at my route.
Why would the receiver do that, though? Is it because you don't trust the quarterback, or is that you're looking? You need to feel like you got to make eye contact?
Well,
with him,
no, some guys are like, when some guys don't have the route feel yet and understanding this league, you have to hold off your defender for as long as possible. So I'm buying time for the quarterback, the window to open, and if I'm looking at Adam, I'm looking at him, and at the end I snap off and turn around real quick. I've delayed his breaking time. Therefore, it gives me a higher chance to catch the ball. So in zone, our guys don't do these things, and the reason why, they're young. It's just they're young, and so you put that with Hurts and you get these younger guys, it's leading to this.
Right. Greg, you were going to say?
No, I was just going to say I loved a term that Jason said probably week 1 about route running, that you need to get corners off their spot. Yeah. And I love that term. It's a really good term, because when I watch tape, even when I'm watching college players who I'm evaluating, receivers or corners, very often you'll see corners just automatically turn and start to run.
Yeah.
Now those are bad corners, but I mean, you want to get a corner off his spot so he's just not sitting on your route, on your vertical stem.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
Speaking of off the spot, Jalen Hurts was moved off his last week, probably more so than we've seen because of the defense. I mean, we talked about
speed rushers,
in the pregame show what Crosby and Ngakoue could do. I don't think people realized how good they were until they watched that game. That's a good pass rushing duo right there. But also surprising to see Eagles' offensive line not really hold up its end of the bargain the way we're expecting. What did you guys see from Mailata in particular?
I'll and I'm gonna pass this to Greg, but I'll say Mailata is moving back to the left tackle. He had a game there, but there's something in his pass rush that is easy to identify on tape. Oh, not his pass rush, on his pass set. It's something in his pass set that's easy to identify, because every time Yannick got to the breaking point, he was able to get his hands off without him touching. And it happened 3 or 4 times. He got the sacks off of it, and there was a few times where Jalen Hurts outran it, but he had his timing down. And it's something that you have to change up on tape. I don't know if it's, change up a set, shoot a hand, think about it a little bit differently, but they have something, and they have a beat on them.
Well, the guy who sat in your chair last year, Trey Thomas, was with us all year long, and he was also with us on the last Inside the Birds TV, which is on our podcast and YouTube channel now. He talked about the technique that Eagles offensive linemen are taught by Jeff Stoutland, which is a little bit different than he was used to when he was taught by Juan Castillo. And Greg, you'll remember, he talked about how they play with their arms lower in a catch type of technique instead of a quick punch technique. And he felt that, for as good as Jeff Stoutland is, this is one area that he didn't necessarily agree with how that technique was taught.
Yeah, and look, obviously you can teach different techniques and they can all be effective. I mean, there's not one way to do anything.
Right.
But what Jason said about last week is absolutely true, because if you're going to keep your hands low, then the timing of your punch has to be absolutely precise. It has to be perfect. If you're off by this much in the NFL, particularly against a really good pass rusher, and you know what these guys do, all pass rushers want, they just want sacks. So all they're studying is the guy they're playing against. A pass rusher doesn't care about the front. He's just studying the guy he's playing against, because he just wants to beat that guy. Am I right?
Yeah.
Right. So he's studying, Ngakoue, who's very good, by the way, and he's studying Mailata, and he knows exactly how he uses his hands, when he strikes with his hands, how he punches. He knows all that going into the game, and he can beat that.
Right.
So, and the idea of Trey's mentality of punch first, if you punch first, you get a chance to reposition your hands as long as your feet is moving.
Right.
So if you punch and a guy, you can adjust with your feet. So he knocks him down, you can adjust again. If I let him come to me and I catch it, I have no second chance.
Yeah.
And that's where Trey's mentality is.
Very quick point. There were 2 tackles who handled Reggie White in their careers. Eric Williams, as some might remember in Philly, and Jackie Slater. And Jackie Slater's a friend of mine, and we talked about this because he was on my matchup show for 1 year. And he said the whole key when he played against Reggie White was he had to be proactive, because he said if you allowed Reggie to dictate you were done. And Jackie Slater told me that he would always get the first punch in because then Reggie would have to be defensive as opposed to offensive.
Right.
And that's, again, there's many ways.
There's many ways.
No right or wrong, but sometimes you see it when guys are late with their hands, offensive linemen, that's a bad deal.
Ngakoue is so fast.
Yeah.
Off the edge. I would want to get a hit. If I'm long like Mailata, I want to get my punch. But they got into him last week, and boy, they got a lot of pressures.
Yeah.
That pressure stat, they got a lot of them, unfortunately, on Hurts last week.
Adam, if the Eagles lose today, what I suspect will happen, and if they lose today and then maybe, a couple more, obviously the Chargers would be a very tough deal for them as well, is that Nick Sirianni as a first-year coach, if his offense continues, let me say this, if they lose because the offense continues to stumble, I think he's going to want to have to show the bosses and some other people that the offense itself, if he wanted to design it a different way, could work. And only then could I see maybe a moving on to Gardner Minshew, where you've said, all right, let me try it my way with a different type of quarterback, and then let's see what happens from there.
Well, a couple things. If you do move on from that, if you do go to Minshew, the Hurts era is over. That's it. He will not. They will be drafting a quarterback high next year or trading for one. So you could put that one to bed. But if you do go to Minshew, and I think Greg alluded to it, you're going to run a different offense and maybe a more conventional offense where this is probably what Sirianni wants to do. If you look at his background, Sirianni's talked about this. He's not running the offense like this.
Right.
I think it's pretty clear. They're telling you exactly what they inherited, a type of quarterback who needs to play a certain way to be successful. That's coaching. I understand that. But at some point, it needs to be better, and the quarterback needs to be better.
Right. And I wonder if today, based on what we saw last week, if today we see more of Nick Sirianni just trying to run a little bit more of a conventional offense, again going under center, like we saw last week.
First series. Yeah.
You hope that you don't get ball controlled the way the Raiders ball controlled them.
And they can do that. And they can do that.
And that the lead is within, either you're winning or you're not down by 20.
It was 14-7 late in the second quarter. Then the Raiders kicked the field goal to make it 17. Yeah, the fumble. Yeah. And then the Raiders came out on the first possession of the third quarter, and then the game felt like it totally got away from them.
I have to say this just for our for the viewers and everyone, is that onside kick, the surprise onside, was executed like from a coaching standpoint. Let me say not executed. They should have received the ball. They should have got it.
Really?
Right? 100% should have got it. It was there for the calling. It was there. They got the perfect look.
They did say that. They got the look they wanted. Yep.
But execution was wrong. So the two guys that's closest to the kicker should be your snipers. The guy that's running directly at the offensive center, the guy that recovered the ball, should be running like a wedge right at him to block him. The kicker is the guy that receives it, and the four that comes in behind him, the guys next to him, comes in behind to receive it as well. But they had everybody as ball guys, and when the kicker slipped down, the guy comes in and recovers it because I was yelling at the TV.
I know you were hands team all the time, weren't you?
God.
You were on those.
But you liked it. You liked the idea.
I like the aggressiveness. Yeah. I like the aggressive. It was just poorly executed. That's what I meant.
Yeah, they did mention, and I don't know where to even go with this, that the new stadium surface was harder than most stadium surfaces because it's new and the ball didn't bounce the way they thought it would bounce. Now, you can't practice an onside kick, obviously, because then you're showing everybody. But I wonder if that's BS. That's a little.
The ball and football and the oblong ball didn't bounce the way. Of course, right. I'm surprised.
Right. All right. Inactive.
We got inactive.
We did allude to this could happen, and it did happen. Eric Wilson is inactive.
So he's a healthy inactive.
He's a healthy inactive. We had heard that he was probably going to be benched, and he is benched officially. He is inactive. Reed Sinnett, so they'll dress two quarterbacks. McPherson was hurt anyway, who only played on special teams. Mac McCain, Jack Anderson, Sua Peta, Anthony Harris. So
wait, are they playing with one less linebacker, or is someone else playing?
Well, they had 7. They're playing with 6.
Got it.
Which is still a lot of linebackers.
Yeah, and in fact, that's one thing to look at on Tuesday. I know people think I'm out of my mind. I'm not ruling out a trade of one of their linebackers. 7 is just too many.
It is too many. It's just the question is, will somebody take one of those
I get
linebackers?
it, but you know what? In a different scheme, where they're not so far back, maybe they see something. Because I know there's been some interest in a couple of their linebackers, but in a 7th or 6th round pick, heck, you move them if you can.
Absolutely. Now, if this were prior to the new CBA, you might consider just cutting Eric Wilson altogether. He's done nothing for you. He's hurt you in some situations, and because you signed him to a contract, even just a one-year deal, it counts against your compensatory pick formula. But I've been told that ever since, because remember, the Eagles did that with L.J. Fort 3 years ago, and then Andrew Sendejo, was it last year already or 2 years ago they had Andrew Sendejo?
People were mad, like, what are you cutting him
well, they
for?
cut them,
There's
and
a
it
reason.
didn't count against their comp pick formula, but that's gone. Now, if you sign a free agent during the free agent period, he counts. So
Even if you
Eric
cut him
Wilson-
before
Andrew
you
even if
cut
he
Sendejo
cut
is
him,
going to
he
play
counts.
12 years in this league.
I know, he's still
for a
playing
bunch
with the
of
Colts,
teams.
right?
He's starting now because they lost Blackman for the season.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Solid player.
I know.
He's a
He's
solid
going to play
player.
12 years in this league.
He could hit, man. He's knocked some people out.
He has, including his own teammates
Yeah,
at times,
yeah.
as we saw with the Eagles a couple of years ago.
Yes.
All right, let's
Documented.
get back to wide receivers, Jason.
Yeah.
Because this week, Nick Sirianni made the remark that he's happy with his wide receiver development, but the one area he would like to see more development is contested catches. And then, of course, you asked all the receivers were asked about it, and we practice it. And Jalen Reagor says he has a 42-inch vertical. If you throw it to him, he'll get it. And it seemed a whole lot of we're trying, but isn't contested catch more about? I mean, I always think of that as where the quarterback's throwing it, back shoulder, in traffic.
Well, Reagor had that
big
catch
physical
contested.
receiver. Yeah, that was one that Jalen pointed to. But I mean, do you see a lot of contested catch opportunities for this team, or fighting through the contact? Is that more the issue?
This is not like we kind of talked about this like kind of before the show started. We have a bunch of smaller guys, and there are certain characteristics that come with lighter guys. It's going to be very, very hard for them to have the strongest hands. They're not strong people. We don't have strong receivers.
Right.
And Quez and Devontae. Jalen's actually pretty strong. Jalen's actually pretty strong.
Good
but
deflection, by the way.
Deflection,
That would be good
So
defense.
Jalen's pretty strong, so you can have some of those contested points. But remember, it's not always just about the catch point. It's what you do prior to the catch point.
Right.
Contested catches, you still have to be on the positive side of the route. We're not getting to a point where we're winning at the line of scrimmage or when we need to separate in order to be in a position to make a contested catch. So if you're throwing the ball down the field on a goal ball and I can push Devontae Smith so far out of his route and close to the sideline, the quarterback has to be perfect.
Right.
Same way with Jalen Reagor. We've seen guys get pushed out 4 or 5 times on balls that they
Couple
call.
times, yeah.
And
It happens.
And off of what Jason's talking about, this is what I've said from day one. These guys have to command the football. Like you go in, to a play caller will go and say, I'm getting that guy the ball today because this guy, he's going to win. The receivers don't win enough. It's not just the quarterback. It's not just the play calling. These guys got to win. Now, here's a question for both of you guys watching the tape. Are they scheming up? Are they scheming them enough?
In my opinion, no. Again, I see all these teams.
Yeah.
I think they can do a lot more to scheme up guys getting open, and I think that will help the quarterback as well. Now he's got to make the throws, but that will help the quarterback. That's what coaches should be doing. You have to look at the talent level of your receivers, okay? There have been pass games in the NFL that have worked fine. Maybe not the best in the league, worked fine though, where the receivers are not high-level, big-time receivers.
Right.
And maybe these receivers can develop into that. Obviously, you have 2 first-round picks, but you need to scheme them open. The Lions have shown through the first 7 games of this season that they play a significant amount of man coverage, whether it's cover 1 or 2 man. And you know from film study what you're going to get in given situations. When you anticipate man coverage, you've got to scheme that. You can't just say, let's go out and win one-on-one.
Yeah.
You got to scheme that.
Who should be? Go ahead.
Guys that get open one-on-one without any help are guys that are number ones.
Yeah.
True. They're true number ones. They don't need your help. They don't need you to manufacture anything.
Right.
We have guys that are not at that level yet.
Right.
And that's okay. And if you have
Nor are they
those,
built that way, right? Like, there's nobody on this receiving core, even Devontae Smith, as good as he is, who's built like Devontae
They don't
Adams,
have-
right? I mean,
Devontae Smith can be that guy if you put him in the slot predominantly because now he's off the ball. He has a higher chance of being able to go in and out of motion. You can scheme him up naturally,
Right.
but you want to play him outside and leave him stationary at times, and he just doesn't have the size
Right.
to fight through contact consistently.
a lot of people said that
Exactly.
about him coming out of Alabama.
But that's where he is now until he figures it out.
Right.
They don't have what we call, which I think in today's NFL is critical, a boundary X receiver. a receiver who can line up to the short side of the field on the ball because he's the single receiver, so he's on the ball, not a step off or two off the ball. They don't have that player because that player gets a lot of single coverage because there's usually 3 receivers to the other side.
Right.
So that player gets a lot of single coverage, and he has to win. Now, there's a number of ways to win, as Jason knows, but that receiver has to win.
Right.
They don't have that receiver.
Is it fair to say in today's NFL, that guy that you're describing, a boundary X, tends to be a little bit bigger? 6'1", 6'2".
Can be.
I mean, I'm not saying it's
doesn't
always,
have to be,
yeah.
but to be honest, and that's what we're trying to be here, to be
Yeah.
honest, it's going to be very hard for a 158-pound receiver to be a boundary X.
It's just hard.
It's hard.
It's
I mean, I
just
was
tough.
having this
No, I mean,
conversation.
this is what people said coming
So
out
they're
of
gonna
I was
need
Alabama.
having
is
this
that he doesn't face a lot of
conversation
press.
this week
Yeah.
doing a radio show and someone asked me about Jamar Chase, okay, who's obviously having a great rookie year. And all of a sudden it popped into my head that Jamar Chase weighs 50 pounds more than Devonta Smith.
Yeah.
50. Think about that.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of weight.
Both of them, Jamar Chase is a really good route runner.
Yep.
Devontae Smith is a really good route runner. The biggest difference is the weight.
Right.
That's it. He's able to fight through more. He's able to do those things. And to me, I just think that you play guys where they need to be, where they are, where they are in their career currently.
All right.
Just put Devontae Smith in the slot, move him around a little bit. If you put him outside, put him in bunches and stacks.
Right.
Do what teams are doing to us.
The only physical pass target, Jeff, that they have is Dallas Goedert. He is the guy, to me, who's got to be the focal point of the pass game.
Yeah.
And work off of his size in the middle of the field. That's another guy. We've been waiting for him to kind of have a breakout game. He's done okay.
He did have 3 20-plus receptions last week.
Get him the ball more. Get him the ball more.
Yeah.
He should never get
He
less
is
than
someone
8 to 10 pass
you
targets a
could,
game.
as we all talk about sometimes, not all the time, but in your 1x3.
And by the way, they were all
flexes to the-
schemed plays because each play was an outbreaking route versus cover 3. 2 of them were what we call flood concepts. The other was sort of like that, a little different, but I mean, they were attacking that particular team, that particular coverage.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jalen Reagor has the size because he's compact. He's small, but he's
Right.
compact. He has the strength. He just doesn't have the ability
Right.
to make people move out of their spot.
Right. Yeah.
He doesn't have the ability to make people think that he's doing something that he isn't.
Is that because he lacks the savvy? Because he has the speed.
It's not just the savvy. It's about quickness. It's about subtleties. It's about all of those things. If you have guys that are more straight lined, guys that may have a little quickness, but they don't have the timing of when to do things, that you can have all the ingredients and you can't put it together. There's going to be,
Who's Jalen Reagor if he's on a different NFL team with a more functional offense?
First of all, if you put Jalen Reagor on the Packers,
Okay.
Jalen Reagor is going to do really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll do
Number
really
two
well
receiver?
versus the Packers. Well, when you have a quarterback can make
Right.
the difference.
But he still has to win. He needs to win the route, though.
He needs to win a route, but your quarterback and Jalen Reagor, he wins enough. He's not going to get chasms of space, but he wins enough in order to be good. He'll be a number 2 in the Packers for sure.
Right. Well, you guys mentioned all of them. Dallas Goedert, who did have a bigger game last week, and this week is obviously another opportunity again as the number 1 tight end of this team to assert yourself based on what you've seen from how the Lions play defense. We thought last week there would be opportunities for him because cover 3 seams. You thought you'd have the opportunity to get him vertically on those seams. Where can Goddard really hurt the Lions today if used right?
Well, the Lions play a lot of multiple coverage concepts, so there's not just one thing.
Okay.
I tell you, what interests me the most is not with Goddard. What interests me the most is Gainwell. Because when the Lions play man, their tendency is to play Reeves Maben, a linebacker, on the back.
Right.
And I think that is where the Eagles can do some damage. A few weeks ago, the Bengals split out Chris Evans. He beat Reeves Maben for a touchdown. I think Gainwell, to me, could be a very big factor in the passing game today.
Derek Barnes is a guy I know a lot of people around the league like.
Purdue.
But he doesn't play in their nickel.
But I want to ask you, what do you see from him this season?
Yeah, well, Derek Barnes, I really like coming out.
Okay.
He came from Purdue. He was one of my favorite guys in the draft. He was a guy that his second to last year at Purdue played on the ball as a pass rusher. They moved him his last year at Purdue to a stack backer. And in the last 3 weeks or so, he's become a starter in their base. He's basically a box player right now. But again, if he's in the game, You know, and this is
not a
where, you
coverage
know,
guy.
he's not a coverage guy.
Right.
So you
Right.
want to attack. You know, maybe that's where you line up with 2 tight ends.
There you go.
You know,
There are some ways they can move the football, Jeff.
everybody knows that,
Right.
we're not given.
It's not rocket
This is
science,
not
but-
profound
Yeah.
new information.
Right.
You know.
Right.
But these are areas where
Yeah.
you would like to see the Eagles be able to move the ball, establish a functional offense, and then be able to take advantage of some of the matchups.
Yeah, with Jerry Jacobs out there and Amani, I can't say his last name. Another
Awarrior.
Awarrior.
Because he went to Penn State, you don't want to
Well,
say
yeah,
his
Awarrior.
last name.
It's not. Yeah.
I can't either. It's
They-
all right.
but they're- what I'm
Once-
saying, they're guys out there. Go ahead.
One surprise. This is interesting. Jamal Williams is inactive for the Lions.
I was
He's
getting that- I
inactive.
was
Oh,
getting that
wow.
feeling,
Wow,
yeah.
how about that, huh?
Interesting. So who's their second back with Williams
Ooh.
out?
Williams out.
It will be,
It will be DeAndre
Jamar
Swift and
Jefferson, who we
DeAndre
like.
Swift.
Jamar
Oh,
Jefferson.
the Oregon State kid.
Yeah, we like
I like
Jamar.
I like Jamar
Yeah.
Jefferson.
Is he a bigger back or is he more of
He's
a
compact.
Yeah,
he's
but
short.
he's
he might be
got some
5'9",
explosiveness.
but
Okay.
he's compact.
third down, throw the ball?
Oh
to
no!
him?
Well, at Oregon State,
Uh-huh.
he was the Pac-12 Player of the Year. He carried the ball. He was a workhorse back. Now he
Okay.
won't be a workhorse back today.
Right.
But he averaged 20-plus carries for 3 consecutive years at Oregon State.
I forgot to mention this earlier because we were flying by a little bit, but DeAndre Swift leads all NFL running backs in yards, and the Lions
Reception yards.
Reception yards, yeah. The Lions have the highest percentage of targets to a running back than any team in the league.
It matches
So,
up perfect.
It's not rocket science. You know who you got to stop.
But that can be good and bad because there's some of those that are design plays,
Right.
and there's others because Goff gets a little
Gotta dump it.
panicky, to use Jason's term, in the pocket, and just is looking
Well,
to get dump the ball
Right,
off.
that's good for the Eagles because you know when Goff's going to panic, where the ball's probably going to go.
It's true. Like if we do what we normally do, the back will get the ball a bunch. Just
Yeah.
because we drop the linebackers deep, safeties deep. The DeAndre Swift. We saw Josh Jacobs last week. Get 11, 12 yards just on dump downs.
Right.
So hopefully we don't do what we do normally.
Got to tackle because they find ways to get Swift the ball in space in multiple ways.
Right,
Okay,
yeah.
whether it's conventional screens, whether it's working him across the formation behind the line of scrimmage, they get him the ball in multiple ways.
Sure.
Yeah.
And they want him in space because he's really good in space. You got to tackle.
I believe the Lions also give up a decent amount of yards to tight ends, so you would look for not only Dallas Goedert, but maybe if they can get Richard Rodgers involved
it's
in their
weird.
12 personnel.
They will when they throw to them, but they give up so much production to wide receivers on the outside, as you were pointing out earlier.
Yeah.
That's where they get it. It's not like it's not like they can't give up production to the tight end. It's just teams
No,
go
that-
after the corners so much.
You're right. I forgot to mention that stat. 105 yards allowed to outside wide receivers per game.
Wow.
The Lions are the worst in the NFL at stopping
So who-
outside wide receivers.
Who's going to play corner opposite? Because Parker's going to play in the slot. Who's going to play corner opposite Aurier?
You're
Jacobs.
Jerry
Oh, it's
Jerry
Jacobs.
Jacobs.
Yeah,
I thought he was
number
in.
39,
Yeah, he's
right?
out.
He's up. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh
Jerry
no,
Jacobs?
he's been starting the last 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you know about
Yeah,
Jerry
look,
Jacobs?
He's a
That's-
free agent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where'd
I don't
he come
know
from?
exactly where he's from, but he's a free agent.
Yeah, Geronimo Allison, by the way, is inactive.
He is?
Actually, A.J. Parker is inactive. Excuse me.
Arkansas.
Oh, okay.
He is inactive.
He's
So
from Arkansas. A.J. Parker is inactive.
Yeah, so here's
so
the deal,
Worley
to get
could well
cleared.
be in the slot.
Worley was actually not. Worley is on their practice squad. He was not brought. They didn't.
So what does that mean? Because he played last week.
No, what it is he was elevated. So on Monday you have to go back to your practice squad. They have to call you up, and
So
they didn't call him up.
So he can't play this week?
No.
So they're without Parker, without
so
and without Worley.
right now it's my goodness gracious.
Bobby Price, Norfolk State.
Oh, he's playing.
He's a safety, right?
He's the tall kid, right? He's long and tall.
So it's definitely
and Mark Gilbert, who I remember from Duke.
Duke.
They brought him off of Pittsburgh's practice squad. My goodness, the Eagles here. If
You
they
got
cannot
you got
throw-
to be able to throw the
If
ball.
you can't
today.
throw, now Nick Sirianni said though, you don't want to go crazy.
Yeah, but he's right about that. But you
he's
still
right.
got to be able to.
You
got
got to throw. When you throw, you got to get big
I
plays.
do
here.
remember this discussion
Oh, my goodness.
week 2, San Francisco, when they were down to what was the Lenore?
Diamador,
And then Josh Norman on the other side
yeah.
that you have to throw. And then at
Yeah.
the end of the game, we were saying, all right,
6
you
shot plays.
took a few
they
too
tried.
many shot plays without
Right,
any rhythm
right,
or flow to your
right,
offense.
right.
I would say it's important today to
just
really
missed
be
them. That
in
was
your
good plays.
offense.
I know.
To be in your offense and then take the shot plays when you find them, not necessarily like, let's just go out there and throw the ball down the field.
But this plays in what Greg said.
It's never
You
a
could
bad
still
time to take
scheme
shot.
these guys open. You could go against the worst corners in the world, but you still got to scheme them open. Help your receivers because Eagles receivers have trouble getting open on their own. We know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's funny, and
Not
Jason
with
just
these
reminded
guys.
me, you go back to that San Francisco game, the first series they had a really good play call with Devonta Smith wide open on the deep over,
Yep.
and Jalen Hurts was about 2 beats late and underthrew him significantly. That should have been a touchdown.
Right.
weren't
By the
bad.
way, was the
I don't-
RPO
they-
slant a touchdown in that last game where he hit if he had hit Devontae
I don't know
Smith
if it
in
would've
stride?
been-
There was a
It's
safety. I think
it's
Moehrig was
NFL.
there, but
it's NFL.
yeah.
It's very, very hard to get to go all the way.
That's true.
It probably-
But it
yeah.
would
They only
have
had
been a
one
big
guy to
play.
beat.
Would have been a big play though.
Only one guy to
It was
beat.
Moehrig.
If he catches inside, you got.
Yeah,
Devon
but
Moehrig.
again-
it would have been a big play.
But
Yeah,
it's a
for sure.
big play that they left on the ground because the quarterback was not accurate.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's the point.
Yeah,
real quick.
But I disagree with you guys
On what?
on this point.
On the touchdown?
There's never a bad time to take a shot.
Right.
None.
Oh, okay.
Because you get the highest, like if what's like the worst can happen, interception. But let's think about this. You go down the field as many times as you can. One of those times you're gonna get a pass interference. Right? I think
Sure.
I think teams that don't take shots, shoot themselves in the foot because
Fair.
there's a higher chance
Fair.
that you get a pass interference.
This offense has been very out of flow, though. I was just saying,
Oh, yeah.
I want shots, but first you would like to see the establishment of some flow.
Some flow, yeah.
Instead of first down come out like they did against San Francisco when he underthrew the ball. Maybe if he's in a rhythm,
in the
and
rhythm
a
for
flow.
they've been giving them short throws
They have been.
to start the games.
Ready. Real quick on Watkins, because he is one guy who, in his limited chances to catch the ball, has shown some contested catch opportunity. Do we know yet whether he's good enough to be the number 2 receiver on this team, or if he's still kind of a shot play?
We ask it
guy?
every week.
We don't
It's
know
very
that,
hard.
But
He can run.
he is an explosive playmaker.
Yeah.
The other part about this, which I did want to add, is just talking to teams at Great Eagles tape, and this comes up a lot, is they don't seem to, and Greg was talking about this a little bit at Scheming Open, the Eagles do have playmakers. They're just not getting the football enough. It's not just the inaccuracy of the quarterback.
Right.
There's ways you can do it. It could be on an end around, jets, whatever it is, figure out a way to get these guys the ball, because if there's one thing they can do is they could run. Mm-hmm. And they've got to get them the football.
So Coach Reed, he does a good job back in the day of the guys that are first down players, first, second down players.
Yeah.
And I always talk about that. Like there's
They're all-
situational players, and then there's guys that your offense is designed around. You want to make sure that the guys that your offense is designed around, that they get their touches.
Right.
Right. And the situational players come in situations, right? So Quez Watkins, you can't go till you're down 30-7 before he touches the ball, third quarter. You can't, because I know the offense isn't designed around him, but he's shown as much as anybody in the past game that he should at least touch the ball before third quarter.
Catches everything,
and,
too.
and at least an opportunity.
Sure, and that goes back to, even if you're struggling, your quarterback is struggling, you can call reverses, you can go end around, you can call specific
Right.
plays,
Yeah.
real easy shallow cross or a dump off where you do get. I remember Atlanta, 3 straight screens to Quez Watkins because the Falcons just weren't defending.
amazing.
it, right?
Yeah.
And it
3
seemed
plays in
like
a row.
that's gone. 3 plays in a row. And they were positive plays each time.
And usually your first 15 is usually the coach calling the plays that's
Sure.
designed, but you're like, oh, this one's for Kelsey, this one's for this person,
Oh,
or
okay.
this one's for,
Right.
When they say-
Jalen, this is for Devontae, this is for this. That's how you go.
When they say the first 15, that doesn't mean they run them in from 1 to 15.
Correct.
What it means is that in a normal down and distance situation,
First
because
and second
obviously if it goes to 3rd and 9, then you go to your 3rd down. Play correct.
Right.
But I mean,
Right.
but Jason's 100% right. The good offenses make sure they get the ball to those guys
Right.
as part of your first 15 or 20 plays. You have to.
We've heard Nick Sirianni say it. Got to see him do it. All right, check out our friends at PHLSportsNation.com, enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams for the fan, by the fan. That's their motto. So make sure you're checking them out at PHLSportsNation.com or on Twitter at PHLSportsNation. Real quick, Adam, before we get into our pick segment, obviously this is the last game before Tuesday's trade deadline. You already mentioned linebackers, potentially, if the Eagles can find a suitor. We'll see. Anybody else that maybe strikes you as saying goodbye to the Eagles?
Well,
after
I would
today?
say this much. There's interest in Andre Dillard. We said this since August. There were teams that called the Eagles that had interest, and the Eagles were not even listening then. They're listening. They're listening to about a lot of players, but it doesn't mean they're going to do anything. They're at the point now where they have 11 draft picks. We know what this team is. They're in a transition year. I still could see 2 to 3 minor deals being moved. Now, as far as Cox, the team accepting his contract, they'd love to accept it because remember the Eagles restructured?
Right, all
They
the
lowered
dead
his
money
base
goes
salary.
to them.
Right. The Eagles would take on a massive amount of dead money, which would make it difficult.
Right.
Jeff, you had mentioned
Cox for a 3. Would you, if the Eagles lose today and they get a 3 for Cox?
I can't speak for them. I would do it. He's a declining player. Not the same player. He clearly doesn't like the scheme, but I'm not the Eagles.
And
so.
I don't know if the scheme is going to change anytime soon. So where you think next year you might get a better Fletcher Cox?
Cox does?
I think about 3 years, yeah.
You think so?
In a better scheme? You think you can get 3 good years out of him?
I think so.
Okay.
And a good scheme.
Relatively healthy.
Would you take a 3rd-round pick for Fletcher Cox right now if you
As
were
a
Howie?
full-time player, or do you think he has to play 30 or 40 snaps a game?
That's a good point.
I would, like, as he's older and declining, you expect his numbers to go down.
Right,
His usage to go down.
Yeah.
And that may help him a bunch.
Right.
too.
I mean, the question with someone like Fletcher Cox is he now, should he be best utilized? I don't know the answer to this. I'm throwing it out to the group.
Yeah.
Should he be best utilized now as more of a situational player who gets 25 or 30 snaps a game, and plays a 3 technique, a 1-gap player, or can he still play 65 or 70 snaps a game and be effective?
How many snaps a game about is JPP playing for the Bucs? Is he playing the full game for them, or is he more like a situational rusher?
He's becoming more because of Tryon. Joe Tryon is going to be a big-time player, by the way.
Yeah.
But because of Tryon, JPP's numbers have gone down.
Yeah.
So here's my thing. Before we ever get to the point where we determine if Fletcher Cox is a situational player or not, or if his snaps, we need to figure out, okay, if he goes back to a wide 9, if he goes back to a coaching staff that he feels more comfortable with, let's see what happens.
Right.
And I think it's like when we jump on and say he's declining, I know last year it wasn't the best year, and I understand why you guys are saying. But based on what they're doing now, it's tough for me to just accept that he's declined this far.
Trust me, I agree
So I
with
think
you.
it's hard to evaluate.
That's a fair
I
statement.
felt the
That's
same
totally
way about
fair.
Zach Ertz, by the way. I know the tape showed last year that maybe he was not, but I felt like he was just caught up in the lethargy of not being where he didn't want to be.
Plus he was hurt,
I meant before the injury though.
Yeah, before the
earlier
injury.
in the
He was
year.
just frustrated with his contract.
And look, you see, he's not the Zach Ertz from 6 years ago catching 100 balls, but he's a good player.
No,
who can
we've
still be
seen guys
productive.
get traded when they're playing in one scheme and it's not working. You get them traded. You go, wow, why is he doing so well? Because it was scheme related. Like the guy could still play. It's a good argument. I'll be interested to see how active they are because they have players who could help other teams that are still able to play at a high level.
Sure.
That they could sort of take those draft picks and help rebuild this team. Because I think if we're all being honest, this is a bottom 10 roster.
Yeah.
I still think it's better than their record would indicate, but it's not a playoff roster.
Right.
So not just for 2022 picks, get picks for 23 and 24.
I agree.
Really build for the future now.
There you go.
Hey, I wanted to say this because we didn't get a chance to talk about it too much, but Jason Kelsey on the fumble snap on the goal line.
Yeah.
Everyone was talking about Jalen Hurts and him missing that snap. They're on silent count. So Jason Kelsey snapped the ball prematurely. On silent count, the guard looks back at the quarterback and taps the center's inside leg, and then he snaps it. When Jason Kelsey, before the guard could touch his leg, he snaps it prematurely, deflects it off of his hand, and then they fumble the snap.
Yeah.
So that's the Kelsey thing.
Yeah, Kelsey
Just
and Hurts had a few of those issues last year. All right, if you want to get an advantage over your sportsbook, you got to download BetQL, the only app you'll need to make smart bets. Their best bet computer model scans over 350,000 unique bets a year to give you the recommendation for every game, all major sports, and the reason why you should place the bet. Their model covers spreads, over-unders, player prop bets, all of it. And if you don't want to use their model, that's okay, because BetQL's got the necessary tools for your betting research needs. Sharp data, line movement, summaries, line up into the App Store or Google Play Store now. Download BetQL. You can also go to try.betql.co/ITB to get started now. Just enter the discount code ITB at payment checkout for 25% off any of their subscription offerings. And you can check out their sportsbook offers page if you live in one of the eligible states to claim free offers upon signing up at one of the many sportsbooks listed. So don't miss out on the chance to beat your sportsbook this fall season with BetQL. All right, we're going to give our player of the game predictions starting now. Jason, yours is the most fascinating one of all of them, so I'll start with you. Who's today's player of the game?
I'm switching my pick.
No, you're not.
I've done that before. I've done that before.
24-20 Birds.
I did it last week, and it burned me.
I got to throw a flag.
Yeah.
You just false started. We're not at the prediction. We're at player of the game.
Player of the game.
Well, are you fixing that too? Because you're our producers.
I'm fixing it all.
No, we can't do this.
No, stop it. I can switch.
All right,
so player of the game, Devontae
It's
Smith.
not Rebel Hill or Public Square's fault that the graphic doesn't match the pick. This is on Jason Avant.
It's on me.
Who's your player of the game?
Devontae Smith.
Devontae Smith. Okay. Am I allowed to say who you picked first?
Yes, you can.
Jared Goff was going to be your player.
Listen, Jared Goff is going to play well if we play traditional defense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we will see.
Yeah.
You might regret switching the pick after the end.
I could. I would be in the lead if I did.
Greg, who's your player of the game?
I believe I said Devontae Smith as well.
Yeah, are you guys like, is there a little collabo going on?
No, I'm taking the optimistic route today.
Yeah, you're going the analytics route too, as we mentioned, 104.6 yards allowed by the Lions to outside wide receivers. Adam, who's your player of the game?
Could be Dallas Goedert. I'm going to the well again. He looked really good last week. They need to get him the ball more. One of these days, he's going to have this monster game and go, oh my goodness, where's this been all season? This is going to be the one.
Well, I was tempted to take Dallas Goedert as well, thinking the same thing you are, but I'm going to go with the coach's pet.
And I like this one
Kenneth
too.
Gainwell. Today, no Miles Sanders. I think Kenneth Gainwell is going to get about 10 to 11 carries. I think he's going to probably get about 6 to 7. That's right, he's the coach's pet. 6 to 7 catches and maybe even close to 100 total yards. And he's got a knack for finding the end zone. I think he has the most touchdowns among all the playmakers. So on the team outside of Jalen Hurts. So big game today for Kenneth Gainwell. We'll get into our predictions. First, I want to let you guys know on the BetRivers app here, or if you go to betrivers.com, the Eagles, for the first time this year, are favorites. They're just, first of all, they're favorites for the first time this year, which is amazing. I don't think I've covered, for as long as I've covered the team, I don't remember them not being a favorite until week 8. But they are 3.5-point favorites with an over-under of 48. And of course, if you're going to make that bet, why not do it with BetRivers Casino here in Philadelphia? Every Sunday from now until the end of the year, you can enjoy $7 food specials in Jack's Bar and Grill, half-price gourmet burgers at Hugo's Chop House, drink specials, and more. And not only that, but when the Birds score, you score when you're actively planning with your Rush Rewards card in their Birds Net pit in front of the sportsbook. So remember, you can be a winner at Rivers Casino in Philadelphia, where Philly loves a winner. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, Jason, now that I have to take the old black marker here, had the Lions winning, we're going to switch that up.
Yeah, I had the Lions winning originally.
Was that like, you were just in your emotions at the time?
By the way. I was probably just frustrated. It definitely could happen.
You just finished Q&A for 90 minutes and you're trashing the team left and right.
Everyone in Detroit's locker room believe that they can beat the Eagles.
Oh, I'm sure they do.
Yeah. And the coaches included. So, but I'm going to pick 24-20 Eagles. When you look at all the Detroit Lions are missing, the Eagles can't lose this game. The city will be in uproar. So they can't lose this game.
So that's your rationale. They can't lose because the city will be in an uproar?
Yeah, 24-20.
Have you watched the Sixers in the playoffs, my friend? All right, Greg, who's going to win today?
I believe I picked the Eagles.
I believe you did.
And was it 24-20?
24-23 is what I have.
Oh, okay.
But hey, if everybody's changing picks, go for it.
Okay. There you go.
Sticking with that?
I'm staying with that, yeah.
All right, Adam, who you got?
I've got it. The Lions 23, your Eagles 24. No,
he does that on purpose.
Jeff. No. I've got Lions 20, Eagles 27. I think it'll be a fairly high-scoring game. I do believe with all these issues the Lions have at corner, which are numerous, these coaches will finally take advantage of that and scheme these guys open. So big plays in this game. I like your pick of Gainwell. A lot of guys are going to eat today on offense for the Eagles.
All right. Well, I am going to go against what I normally do, which is pick high-scoring games. But with these two offenses and all the injuries and things going on, I do think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think the Eagles are going to win, though. I have the Eagles winning 22-16 and breaking their two-game losing streak.
Yeah, wow.
Actually, that would be the third game this year that they've scored 22.
Well, then maybe it's not so odd. There you go. It is Halloween, so you never know.
Yeah, you never know.
Things are around the corner. Look, thanks to everybody for watching today. Thanks, of course, to Rebel Hill and Public Square. Thanks to our friends at Rivers Casino, our intern, Zane Gonzalez, who pulled some analytics that we only got to a few of them, but we thank him for pulling what we got to. And for everybody out there, please enjoy your Halloween. Stay safe, have fun, and we'll see what happens at 1 o'clock. Have a great weekend, everybody.